There's a piece missing here. Should she use the blue block or the red one? Yi-jin held one in each hand, frowning at her little tower. She was still playing with blocks at Grandma Fang's house. Yi-rong helped once in a while, but mostly his attention stayed glued to the staircase, his ears tuned to every sound from upstairs. Every tiny creak made him twitch. Was Mom okay? Was that man bullying her? The thought crawled under Yi-rong's skin and sat there, heavy. If he were taller, older, he could step in front of Yi Tongning. Instead, all he could do was sit on this rug and stack blocks. Grandma Fang came in from the kitchen carrying a small plate of watermelon. Her voice was warm and easy. Xiao Jin, Xiao Rong, come have some. It's really sweet today. Watermelon beat blocks any day. Yi-jin set her pieces down immediately, took the slice Grandma Fang offered, and beamed. Thank you, Grandma Fang. Yi-rong blinked out of his thoughts and thanked her too. Grandma Fang patted both their heads and called them good kids. Be good. Don't run around. If you want more, just tell me. I'll cut extra. I'll be in the kitchen cooking. She set the plate down and disappeared back into the kitchen, already planning a proper meal for the little ones. Yi-jin grabbed a slice bigger than her face with both hands and dove in. Her cheeks puffed out like a little squirrel's. Yi-rong ate far more carefully. He broke his slice in half, took small bites, and watched his carefree sister with a flicker of envy. When he finished, he grabbed a wet wipe, cleaned his hands, then reached over and wiped Yi-jin's mouth too. Right then, a door slammed. Upstairs hard footsteps followed, heavy and fast, coming down. Yi-rong's guard shot up. He ran to the front door, pulled it open, and looked out straight into Fu Hanbai's face. One glance at the man's expression told Yi-rong everything he needed to know. Whatever had happened with his mom, it hadn't ended well. Fu Hanbai stared at the little boy who shared so many of his own features. It hit him differently this time. Not the rush he'd felt seeing the paternity report, something stranger, deeper. Blood really was the strongest tether in the world. This boy he'd only met a handful of times sparked something warm and familiar inside him. He really was a father. He had a son this big. Fu Hanbai pushed down the bitter dregs of his failed conversation with Yi Tongning and forced what he hoped was a natural smile. You're Yi-rong. But Yi-rong just stared at him, ice cold, and his words cut sharper than any grown man's ever could. You don't get to say my name. Stay away from my mom. She doesn't want to see you. Inside, Yi-jin finished her watermelon and noticed her brother had the door open. Curious, she toddled over. Brother, who are you talking to? Yi-rong turned his head. Nobody. Then he grabbed the door with both hands and slammed it as hard as he could, right in Fu Hanbai's face. The gust of air ruffled Fu Hanbai's hair. He stood there a long moment before his brain caught up. What a disaster. He'd lost his wife. And now his own flesh and blood wanted nothing to do with him. It took a while before Fu Hanbai finally moved, walking out of the building one slow step at a time, like a kicked dog. All the confidence he'd walked in with had drained away somewhere outside. The May breeze brushed warm and humid against his skin. Dappled shadows shifted across the pavement, swaying with the wind. It should have been a beautiful day. Fu Hanbai felt strangely unmoored. He just submitted his leave request, the longest vacation he'd ever taken from the time he was a child. He'd known he would inherit the Fu group, so he'd kept his head down and studied. Once he joined the company, he buried himself in work, day and night, no breaks. Even half a day off used to require coordinating with the entire secretarial team. Now he suddenly had nothing but time, and no idea what to do with it. He could command a boardroom. But with Yi Tongning, he was helpless. Strip away the Fu Group CEO title, and Fu Hanbai realized he was just an ordinary man. He pulled off his suit jacket, carried it in one hand, and wandered along the little flagstone path through the neighborhood. When was the last time he'd walked this slowly? He couldn't remember. Maybe back when he'd had amnesia. He kept walking, soaking in the brief quiet. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows through his lashes, making him squint against the glare. No wonder Yi Tongning didn't want to come back. Here, she had a peaceful place, work she actually liked, and so many people who genuinely cared about her. Yi Tongning was easy to love. He'd always known that. Even without him, plenty of people would line up to love her. The noise of passers-by swelled and faded around him. Fu Hanbai grew tired. He looked up at the bright blue stretch of sky, and the truth settled into his bones. It wasn't that Yi Tongning needed him, he needed her. 1 week later at Fu family mansion. Aunt Li pushed open the bedroom door and sucked in a sharp breath. She set down the bowl of fresh kanji she'd been carrying and rushed inside, her heart hammering. "Eldest young master, are you all right?" Bottles and glasses lay toppled across the table. Shards of glass glittered across the expensive carpet, catching the chandelier light like scattered diamonds. The air was thick with the stench of alcohol. Fu Hanbai slumped on the sofa, head hanging low, one arm dangling toward the floor. Blood seeped from a gash on his forearm, trailing down his fingers and dripping onto the carpet in slow, crimson drops. Aunt Li's old heart nearly gave out. She called for the staff to clean up the glass first, then grabbed the first aid kit herself and knelt to check his wound. Thank goodness. Not deep. The glass had only sliced the surface. She exhaled shakily, pulling out cotton swabs and iodine as she carefully disinfected the cut. She couldn't stop herself from muttering, "Eldest young master, this old woman can't take shocks like this. You must take better care of yourself. If the master saw you in this state, he'd be furious. And if madam were still here, it would break her heart." The iodine stung, just a little, and Fu Hanbai stirred, as if the burn had pulled him back from somewhere far away. His face was haggard, stubble dark along his jaw. His shirt hung open at the collar, buttons undone. He looked nothing like the polished young master. Fut Aunt Li's words. A bitter smirk twisted his lips. If she really cared, she wouldn't have left me on that beach. She wouldn't have hung herself right in front of me. Aunt Li flinched. Wrong thing to say. She shook her head with a long sigh, finished dressing the wound, and wrapped the bandage with gentle, practiced hands. Through it all, Fu Hanbai just stared at the floor, silent, eyes lowered. Seeing him so broken, Aunt Li couldn't bear it. He'd been back at the mansion for a week now. He normally never stayed here after becoming an adult, only visiting for holidays. A tea first. Aunt Li had been delighted, thinking the old house would finally feel alive again. She'd planned to cook all his favorite dishes, but he wandered around like a ghost, locking himself in his room, drinking every day, mumbling a name under his breath, something like Yi Tongning. Even Aunt Li, slow as she was with these things, understood. The young master was heartsick. She'd served in this house for decades. She knew the family's secrets. She couldn't meddle in the master and madam's affairs, but seeing the young master stumble into the same trap, she couldn't let this poor boy repeat history. Aunt Lee bent down a little, her work-roughened hand reaching out to cover his. Fu Hanbai felt the warmth of her fingers and looked up slowly, his gaze still foggy with alcohol. This old woman dares to speak out of turn. If you don't want to hear it, just pretend I'm rambling. People these days stay too far apart. Everyone plugs their ears and walks their own road. Some things can't be spoken. You have to hold hands, look into each other's eyes, to pass even a little bit of feeling across. Fu Hanbai listened, his gaze lifting inch by inch to meet her aged eyes. I don't know what trouble you've run into, but I do know one thing. Sincerity can only be traded for sincerity. And if that doesn't work, she paused, and a hint of unexpected shyness crossed her weathered face. Eldest young master, I see on TV nowadays they always talk about a possessive CEO chasing his wife. You're already a CEO. Yes, for the chasing part. Maybe it's time to try a little harder. Fu Hanbai drank himself into a stupor at the Fu mansion and did nothing for the rest of the day. Fu Heng eventually found out. He was so furious his beard practically quivered as he grabbed his dragon-headed cane and raised it to strike. Look at you, pathetic. You can't handle one little thing. Are you even my son? Fu Hanbai lay sprawled across the sofa, a bottle still in his hand, completely unbothered. Am I your son? You'd know that better than anyone. You destroyed your own marriage. I just inherited the talent for it. He took another swig and smirked. Actually, I'm doing better than you. At least I never drove my wife to her death and I never cheated. Fu Heng's hand trembled around the cane. Aunt Lee saw things spiraling and rushed over. She held the old man back while shooting Fu Hanbai a sharp look, a clear signal to shut his mouth. Master, please calm down. Don't upset yourself. The other servants kept their heads low, eyes fixed on the floor. No one except Aunt Lee would dare step in. Fu Heng coughed violently from rage, then turned away, refusing to look at his disobedient son any longer. Do whatever you want, just don't die in my house and make me clean up the mess. He locked himself in his study, his breathing rough and uneven as he struggled to regain his composure. After a long moment, he pulled a face-down photo frame from a drawer and cradled it in his hands. He stared at the smiling woman in the picture. She held a bouquet of Damascus roses, her smile radiant and bright, and no one would ever imagine a woman capable of such a joyful expression would one day take her own life. Fu Heng murmured to the photograph. A bye's stubborn streak. Did he get it from me, or from you? Alcohol was a wonderful thing. It let you forget every worry for a while and drown in a counterfeit happiness. Even knowing it was temporary, that brief relief was something Fu Hanbai craved desperately. He'd drunk too much at lunch. His head felt heavy and thick, so he went back to his room to sleep it off. When he woke, the room was dark. Only a sliver of pale light seeped through the curtains. He pushed himself upright, shook his throbbing head, and swung his legs off the bed. Slowly, he walked to the window and pulled the curtains open. The room flooded with cool, silvery light. A full moon hung in the sky. Flawless and bright, its gentle glow fell on everything equally. And on Fu Hanbai too. He stood there, briefly frozen. So tonight was the 15th, the full moon. Under the moonlight, The shadows of the Fu mansion stretched long. He spotted a familiar car pulling up to the old house. His older sister, Fu Bingqing, Aunt Li, greeted her warmly. 3 people stepped out. Fu Bingqing, her husband Jiang Hong, and their 2-year-old daughter Fu Yao, nicknamed Guoguo. It had been a long time since the Fu mansion felt this alive. The downstairs buzzed with noise. Fu Hanbai stayed at the window, feeling completely separate from it all, like he'd been sealed off from the rest of the house. Soon, a knock came at his door. "Abai, it's me." His sister's voice. "Come in." He barely moved his lips before sinking onto the sofa. Fu Bingqing entered, wearing a wine-red blazer dress. She sat across from him on the same sofa and studied his face. "Abai, are you okay?" She'd already heard from Aunt Li that her brother hadn't been himself lately. She knew Fu Hanbai's habit of bottling everything up. If you didn't push, he'd never talk. "What's wrong?" "I'm perfect. Couldn't be better." He leaned back, crossed his legs, and wore a mask of indifference. Having grown up with him, Fu Bingqing knew the truth. The more careless he acted on the outside, the worse he was hurting inside. "I'm only watching over the company temporarily. You can come back whenever you've sorted out your personal matters." She assumed he was upset about being put on leave, so she tested the waters. "Sis, let's skip that. I know you're more than capable of running things." He cut her off. He knew his sister had just as much talent. Their father had always favored sons over daughters and never once considered her as a successor. She'd swallowed her pride, worked herself to the bone to prove her worth, and never blamed him for any of it. Eventually, Fu Bingqing made peace with it. She stopped obsessing over the inheritance and just focused on doing her best in her role, working alongside him to build the Fu Group's future. A major part of the company's growth was thanks to her. He had zero reservations about leaving the business in her hands. Then what's going on? If it wasn't work, then what? She was confused. In front of his closest sister, Fu Hanbai rarely let his vulnerability show, but now his voice wavered as he finally confessed. "Sis, do you remember Yi Tongning?" Understanding clicked into place. He was nursing a broken heart. "The girl who saved you. What happened between you two?" "I remembered everything. I went to find her, but she doesn't want me anymore." Fu Bingqing looked at her brother. He was a grown man now, yet in this moment he seemed like that stubborn little kid again. The brat who used to follow her around, never giving up, had grown up. Fu Hanbai buried his face against his sister's shoulder. His body trembled slightly. Growing up, Fu Bingqing had aced every subject. Their father constantly used her as a benchmark to push Fu Hanbai harder, never realizing he was hurting both of them in different ways. To her, it meant no matter how well she did, she was just a tool to motivate her brother. To him, falling short of his sister's grades was a catastrophe that could cost him dinner. His tutors had taught him countless skills, but not one of them ever taught him how to love. Raised under that pressure, losing his mother so young, no wonder he grew up stubborn and arrogant. Fu Bingqing wrapped an arm around him and patted his shoulder. "You broke her heart. Did you actually apologize? Properly?" He was silent for a long beat before answering, his voice muffled. "I apologized several times. She wouldn't listen. She kicked me out." She let out a tired sigh. In business, You never give up. You'll do anything to get what you want. So why is it that in love, one little setback makes you quit? Remember when you first became CEO, what did you do to win over that board member? You memorized his preferences, his birthday, his favorite spots. You even tracked him down at his fishing hole. Let me ask you. What's Yi Tongning's birthday? What food does she like? Fu Hanbai pulled away and sat up straight. He couldn't finish. He didn't know. Fu Bingqing wanted to help him. Winning someone over isn't easy. You already messed up. You're starting from below zero. Did you honestly think you'd get her forgiveness that easily? You know better than anyone that nobody just hands you success. His voice turned uncertain. Then what do I do? I can't give you the answer, but you need to figure out one thing. Stop thinking from your own perspective. What does Tongning want? That's what you have to find out. What does Tongning want? He repeated the words, lost in thought. He felt like he was brushing against something important, but a thick fog kept it just out of reach. Fu Bingqing patted his shoulder again and stood to leave. Aunt Li has dinner ready. Come downstairs and eat. You're a grown man. Don't make the family worry. With Fu Bingqing's family visiting, Aunt Li had been busy in the kitchen for hours. The long rosewood dining table was laden with Westlake vinegar fish, flying dragon soup, crab meat, lion's head meatballs, Longjing shrimp, and more. When Fu Hanbai came downstairs, he looked a bit more put together. Aunt Li pulled out a chair for him. Young master's here. Everyone was waiting for you. Fu Heng snorted but said nothing. He picked up his chopsticks first. Guogua sat on her father Jiang Hong's lap, blinking curiously at the uncle she barely remembered. Guogua, don't you recognize him? This is your uncle. He came to see you before. Fu Bingqing smiled. Uncle. The little girl's voice was shy. Fu Hanbai forced a smile at her, but the child only found him scary and burrowed into her father's chest. Jiang Hong gave an apologetic smile. Guogua's a little shy. Fu Bingqing teased her brother. See? I told you to stop wearing that stern face all the time. Even kids are scared. Next time Guogua acts up, I'll just mention you. She'll behave instantly. Fu Hanbai said nothing. Why did no kid ever like him? Maybe he really did need to practice expressions in the mirror. With Fu Bingqing's family there, the usually silent dinner table filled with laughter. Fu Heng normally hated chatter during meals, but seeing his granddaughter Guogua today, even if he wouldn't admit it, made him happy. He wasn't about to spoil the mood. Jiang Hong kept leaning down to ask Guogua what she wanted to eat. He'd pick it up, cut it into small pieces, blow on it to cool it down, and feed her. He barely managed a few bites himself. Jiang Hong was a highly paid overseas talent the Fu Group had recruited back when Fu Bingqing said she wanted to marry him. No one in the family approved. It was only because Jiang Hong voluntarily agreed to a matrilocal marriage that Fu Heng finally relented. Deep down, Fu Heng knew his favoritism had wounded his daughter. He said harsh things about her not coming back, crying if the marriage failed, but when Fu Bingqing got married, he gave her a generous dowry, shares in the Fu Group, a penthouse in the city center, and several luxury cars. Aunt Li's cooking was excellent, but Fu Hanbai had almost no appetite. He watched his sister lean in and whisper something in Jiang Hong's ear. She cracked up, her whole demeanor softening. Where was the usual strong Female executive, she looked like a woman drenched in love. Guogua, still in her father's arms, grabbed her mother's thumb with her tiny hand. Seeing her mother laugh, she giggled too. Her smile was sweeter than honey. Jiang Hong, usually quiet and reserved at work, was practically a silent statue. But looking at his wife and daughter now, a smile tugged at his lips. That little family of three. They truly seemed happy. Fu Hanbai had grown up alongside his sister, and he had never seen her laugh so freely at home, and from the moment they arrived, Jiang Hong was the one taking care of mother and child. Whenever Fu Bingqing wanted something, a single glance was enough. He'd act immediately. Fu Hanbai was genuinely happy for her. She'd found her happiness. What kind of life did Tongning want? He mechanically shoveled a mouthful of rice into his mouth and suddenly remembered what Yi Tongning had said to him in the car that day. My husband needs to love me deeply. He needs to be devoted, to care about my feelings, to share the household chores, and to share life's ups and downs with me. What had once felt like harsh, grating words now sounded like the most beautiful melody. The fog in front of him lifted completely. Like a traveler in a barren desert stumbling onto a spring, he came alive again. You all go ahead and eat. I have something to do. He didn't even finish his meal. He hurried upstairs. A few minutes later, he came back down in fresh clothes. Without a single word to anyone, he rushed out the door. In less than a minute, Fu Hanbai looked like a completely different person. His entire presence had shifted, and his eyes gleamed with new vitality. The door slammed shut, leaving the four people at the table staring at one another. Fu Heng, however, wasn't surprised. He grunted, "That brat's always running around doing who knows what. Don't pay him any mind." But he had a feeling that by the Mid-Autumn Festival, this dinner table might be even livelier. Days slid by, one bleeding into the next. By June, Jiangyang town was sweltering. The afternoon sun hit hardest, brutal rays pounding the pavement, heat shimmering off the concrete in waves. Cicadas were already deep into their racket, tucked in the trees and buzzing loud enough to rattle your skull. Yi Tongning had just finished lunch in the shop with Yi Jin. She let the little girl watch her favorite cartoons until her eyelids started drooping. Then Tongning scooped her up and carried her to the employee break room in back, where a crib waited with railings all around. Yi Jin's beloved stuffed bear sat on the mattress, ready and waiting. Yi Rong had been reading at the low table out front. He offered to go inside and keep an eye on his sister. Yi Jin thrashed around in her sleep sometimes, and he figured he could watch her. Yi Rong never napped. It had driven his kindergarten teachers up the wall until Tongning came in person to explain he wouldn't disturb the other kids, he just didn't sleep. After that, they let him be. Today Yi Jin wore a sweet little dress dotted with her favorite strawberries. She lay sprawled across the bed, belly rising and falling, one hand gripping her bear. Her nose was pink at the tip, and every so often her lips pursed, probably chasing some dream snack. Tongning pulled the blanket over Yi Jin's tummy and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Sleep well, baby." She turned and kissed Yi Rong's cheek. "Too, thank you. Sweetheart. You're always helping mommy with your sister. I see you." So mushy, so embarrassing. Yi Rong waved his pencil at her, shooing her toward the door, but a faint pink crept across his stoic little face. Tongning ruffled his hair, gave a few more instructions, then made herself walk away. It was Sunday. The dessert shop was busier than usual. She needed to hustle. Tongning headed into the kitchen and got moving. Not long after Yi Jin dozed off, drilling erupted from next door. Bzzzzzzz, the kind of noise that drills straight into your brain, like a dirt bike revving inside your skull. Yi Jin's brows knit together, but she was too deep in sleep to wake. She just rolled onto her side. Bam, bam, bam. Rhythmic hammering followed, heavy, deliberate. That wasn't a claw hammer tapping drywall, that was the full-throated slam of a sledgehammer against brick. Soon the two sounds tangled into a symphony nobody had bought tickets for. No one could sleep through that. Yi Jin's eyes blinked open, dazed and confused. Wei Rong frowned. He soothed his sister first, murmuring low, then walked to the door to look. Out front, customers were grimacing. A few grabbed their desserts and left early. Tang Shu, the employee working the counter, kept apologizing over and over. Tongning heard the chaos and came out of the kitchen. She told Yi Rong to stay with his sister, then pushed open the shop door to see what was happening next. The neighboring unit used to be an internet cafe, not noisy in the normal sense, but the cigarette smoke always seeped through the walls, and deadbeat guys with bleached hair loitered at the entrance, making pedestrians cross the street to avoid them. It had gutted her foot traffic. Good riddance to that place. But what was replacing it? Workers in hard hats streamed in and out, hauling lumber and equipment. The old internet cafe sign had been ripped down. Trash littered the floor inside. No way to tell yet what kind of business this was going to be. Tongning stopped a man carrying a plank of wood. "Excuse me, you're doing construction in the middle of the afternoon. This is really disruptive. Where's your boss? I need to speak with him." The worker didn't even slow down, walked right past her like she was invisible. His crew had landed a monster client on this job, triple the usual rate, strict deadline. He didn't have time for some woman with noise complaints. Tongning's jaw tightened. She slipped through the swarm of workers and stepped inside the shop. Then she froze. A familiar face. "Ling, what are you doing here?" Ling Qian was standing in the middle of the chaos, overseeing the work. When she spotted Tongning, she hurried over. "Miss Yi, just call me Ling Qian. You don't work at Fu Corporation anymore?" Tongning's voice hitched with shock. Ling Qian didn't answer directly. She rubbed her nose, a nervous tell. "I'm opening a shop here with a friend. Just supervising the work today." Technically she was still Fu Hanbai's assistant, but with the boss on leave, there'd been nothing for her to do at the office. When he'd cornered her about what happened 5 years ago, about Yi Tongning and the kids, she'd nearly had a coronary, but he hadn't punished her for going behind his back. Instead, he'd asked her how to win a woman back. That was the moment Ling Qian knew the boss had fallen hard. She'd spent years complaining about overtime, but now that she actually had free time, it felt weird, as though she'd come to Jiangyang town with Fu Hanbai to help with his plan to win back his wife. Seeing an old face here stirred something in Tongning. Without Ling Qian's help 5 years ago, she never would have gotten out while pregnant. But now that Fu Hanbai knew the truth, had he taken it out on Ling Qian? Was that why she'd lost her position at Fu Corporation? Did Fu Hanbai come down on you? Your job? Guilt crept into Tongning's voice. If Ling Qian had lost a good career because of her, Ling Qian grabbed her hand before she could spiral. "Don't get the wrong idea. I've always wanted to open a little shop, childhood dream. That wasn't a total lie. As a kid, she'd wanted to do 100 things: run a boutique, be a stay-at-home mom, fly to Mars. She just ended up a corporate drone instead. So technically, she wasn't lying. The sincerity on her face made Tongning exhale. What kind of shop is it? Ling Qian's eyes glittered. That. I'm keeping it a surprise. I'll invite you when we open. Tongning laughed and didn't push, she just mentioned the noise. Ling Qian looked genuinely apologetic. She promised to keep the hours and the racket under control from here on. After that day, the construction next door went quiet. But somehow the renovations kept flying forward. Workers came and went like ghosts. And before long, the space was finished. Yi Jin was obsessed. Every time they walked past, she'd stop and stare at the storefront until someone tugged her away. Soon enough, Tongning found out exactly what kind of shop it was, and she learned who Ling Qian's friend happened to be. A sign went up on the building next door. 4 words: Tongning Flower Shop. On a weekend morning, Yi Tongning arrived at her shop early, the 2 kids in tow. Just as she reached the door, she spotted a small woven flower basket on the ground. Inside sat 9 vivid yellow roses, their petals plump and lush, dewdrops still clinging like they couldn't decide whether to fall. Yi Rong glanced at the flowers, then at the 4-character sign hanging above the shop next door. He put it together instantly. His biological father, Fu Hanbai, had opened that flower shop. Its sole purpose? To suck up to his mom. Little Yi Jin gasped with delight. She wriggled free from her mother's hand, reached out with a tiny fist, and plucked a rose, lifting it to her nose. She'd never seen flowers so beautiful. Yi Tongning's heart lurched. Afraid Yi Jin might prick herself on a thorn, she grabbed her daughter's wrist. Only then did she notice the stem was perfectly smooth, every thorn meticulously trimmed. She exhaled in relief. She peered into the basket. Tucked among the flowers was a pink envelope sealed with rose gold wax. When she lifted it, the paper carried a faint, sweet floral scent. She opened it. The handwriting was bold and flowing, effortlessly elegant. The content, though, it made her teeth ache. 2 lines in, she couldn't read anymore. Yi Tongning picked up the basket. Ready to return it, she told the kids to go into the dessert shop, but Yi Jin clung to her leg, refusing to let go, begging to visit the flower store. No coaxing worked. With no other option, Yi Tongning carried the basket and led both children into the Tongning flower shop next door. Dingling. A wind chime above the door swayed, its tiny peach blossoms trembling. Once inside, Yi Jin's eyes went wide. She looked around, mesmerized. This was the kind of place a little girl could only dream of. Pale pink brick walls, vintage and charming wooden floors, and small round stools. Pressed flowers in frames on the walls, lamps wrapped in woven rattan. Every shelf overflowing with blooms. The air thick with the scent of nature. Sorry, we're not open yet. A low male voice came from the back. Yi Tongning knew that voice all too well. Fu Hanbai stood there in a crisp white shirt, collar neat, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms and the veins that snaked over them. A dark green apron covered his shirt, paired with off-white casual pants. He sat on a tall wooden stool, one leg bent, a red watering can in hand, misting the flowers in front of him with professional precision. Looking at him now, who would ever recognize the fearsome CEO of the Fu Corporation back in Haicheng? Mommy, These flowers are so pretty. Yi Jin's voice cut through the quiet. Fu Hanbai looked up, his gaze landing on the three of them, sharp, chiseled features. Deep-set eyes. A straight, commanding nose. A confident smile played on his lips. He was still the man from Yi Tongning's memory. Still the face that made her heart tremble. She set the basket down hard on the floor, trying to mask her fluster. You said you weren't open, yet, so what's this? Why would the president of the Fu Group ditch his corner office to run a flower shop? Fu Hanbai's expression softened into a gentle smile. A housewarming gift for my new neighbor. Yi Tongning pulled out the pink envelope, her voice rising. And this? Another housewarming gift. He chuckled, low and smooth. Not exactly. I saw the owner of the dessert shop next door and was struck by her beauty. Love at first sight. I'm not the smoothest guy, so this is my way of expressing my feelings. I hope, miss, you won't laugh at me. That voice, deep, husky, magnetic even from a few feet away. It burrowed straight into Yi Tongning's heart. She was stunned by his shamelessness. She raised a hand, then finally choked out, unbelievable. Yi Rong shook his head helplessly. There was no stopping this. Yi Jin set down her flower, and Yi Tongning pulled both kids out of the shop. Let him do whatever he wanted. This time, like the times before, it wouldn't last long. He'd give up and go back eventually. To Yi Tongning's surprise, that flower shop didn't just survive, it thrived. Business was so good they started limiting daily sales. Every morning when she opened her dessert shop, a new little basket sat by the door. The flowers changed. Every day, roses, lilies, carnations, lisianthus, tulips. He cycled through them all. The one constant was the pink envelope tucked inside. Every day, she returned the basket. Every morning, a new one appeared before opening. Eventually, Fu Hanbai got smarter. He waited until her shop was open, then delivered the flowers in person, right in front of everyone. He knew she wouldn't make a scene in public, but he never did anything else. Never brought up the past. Never begged for forgiveness. He balanced. Right on the edge of her limits. 0.1 millimeter further, and she'd have a reason to kick him out. And he held that line perfectly. Yi Tongning sat at a table in her shop, eating a slice of fresh tiramisu. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being played as she ate. A group of young women at the next table caught her eye. They were dressed to the nines, each holding a single flower. What was this? One of them noticed Yi Tongning staring and smiled, waving the pink rose in her hand. Hey, Miss Yi. Did you guys set up a partnership with the flower shop next door? The owner said if we spend over $100 here, we can go pick a free flower from his place. Yi Tongning forced a smile. A partnership? Huh. The owner didn't know a thing about it. Fu Hanbai, you just love playing the flower boy, don't you? The girls kept chattering excitedly. Have you seen the flower shop owner? He's gorgeous. Right. I thought he was a model from some magazine. That nose. I'd ride a slide down it. Not just hot, he's so devoted. Did you see the sign out front? What sign? Their curiosity piqued hers. Yi Tongning polished off the tiramisu in 3 bites, pushed open the door, and stepped outside. She needed to see what sneaky move Fu Hanbai had pulled this time. 2 small blackboards stood in front of the flower shop. The chalk handwriting was unmistakably his. 1 board read, today's recommended desserts, durian mill crepe, mango sago with coconut milk, lemon cheesecake. Please spend over $100 at the dessert shop next door, show your receipt, and claim a free flower here. Ye Tongning bit back a retort. Thanks for the recommendation. The other board read, owner has no phone, no WeChat, heart already taken until death. The sky was a bright, cloud-dotted blue. Fu Hanbai walked into Yili Ihua Yi dessert shop like he did every day now, a bouquet in his hand. This time, he had arranged the flowers himself. Carnations, roses, pale pink daisies, and hydrangeas, softened with eucalyptus and fern fronds. The colors layered perfectly. The bouquet was round and full, taller in the middle, tapering into a graceful curve at the edges. The heat was keeping customers away. At the back table, Tang Shu was playing some kind of game with Yi Jin. When the door chimed, she hurried out front. Spotting Fu Hanbai, Tang Shu smiled. She already knew the deal. Mr. Shen used to show up all the time. Now, hardly ever. Meanwhile, the flower shop owner next door came by like clockwork. Both handsome, both successful. Their boss definitely had a pull on people. The table flowers inside the shop changed daily. She had lost count of how many new vases they had bought. Some days, the scent of fresh blooms nearly drowned out the sugar and cream, all because of the man standing right there. Tang Shu gave him an apologetic look. Here to see Boss Yi. She went to visit her mother. She's not in right now. I see. Fu Hanbai dropped his gaze, thinking the hard edge he used to carry was gone. He seemed quieter now, more inward still. That face paired with the massive bouquet made him look like he had stepped out of a magazine spread. Handsome uncle. The bright little voice came from the back. Fu Hanbai looked over. Yi Jin was beaming at him, waving. He scanned the shop. He was, without a doubt, the only one who could be called handsome uncle. He accepted the title without blinking. Bouquet in hand, he walked toward the back. Yi Jin sat at her small table, drawing. Half-finished artwork lay scattered around her, oil pastels in every color of the rainbow. Yi Rong was on his laptop. He did not look up. Fu Hanbai used to roll his eyes when parents said they would pluck the stars or fish the moon out of the sky for their kids. Now he understood. A sweet little girl like Yi Jin, looking up at you with those huge, glossy eyes? You could not refuse her a single thing. He plucked a pink daisy from the bouquet and tucked it behind Yi Jin's ear. Then he patted her head. Pink daisies meant innocence. Pure, happy little blooms, just like her. Perfect for Yi Jin. He was only an uncle for now. He was working on changing that. Someday, he believed, he would hear both Yi Jin and Yi Rong call him dad. He was trying to change. Smoothing down his rough edges, setting aside that old arrogance, that worthless pride, learning to fit this new shape. Flower shop owner, Yi Tongning's suitor, father to her 2 children. He could give up his authority at Fu Corporation, give up the comfort of life in Haicheng, give up his dignity, but he would never, ever let go of the 3 of them. He knew he had to play fair. No playing favorites. So he pulled another daisy from the bouquet and set it beside Yi Rong. Yi Rong's small fingers flew across the keyboard. He gave no sign the man beside him even existed. Fu Hanbai glanced at Yi Rong's laptop screen, his eyebrows lifted. Not bad. The kid had a little of his younger self in him. Handsome uncle, what's your name? Yi Jin touched the flower tucked in her hair, her big eyes crinkled with laughter. My name is Fu Hanbai. He crouched down and took her tiny hand. He knew she probably could not read characters that complicated, but he traced his name into her palm anyway, stroke by stroke. It tickled. She snatched her hand back, giggling. I'm Yi Jin. Then, straight from the mouth of a child, Uncle Fu, are you trying to woo mommy too? The second she said it, Yi Rong's typing fingers froze. At the counter, Tang Shu stretched her neck to eavesdrop gossip. She wanted in on this. Fu Hanbai let out a dry smile. It softened the coldness on his face. Even Yi Jin stared, mesmerized. This Uncle Fu was even more handsome than Uncle Shen. What do you mean, too? Who else has been trying to woo your mommy? Yi Jin held up an oil pastel. Uncle Shen, he's handsome. He's super nice to mommy, and he always brings me presents. He bought me these oil pastels. Fu Hanbai's expression went dark. That Shen guy. But Yi Jin shifted gears. But what? Fu Hanbai leaned in. But mommy turned him down. It was. I can't remember exactly when. Outside the dessert shop. She tucked the oil pastel under her chin like a microphone, lowered her voice, and imitated Yi Tongning perfectly. Sorry, let's just be friends. I'm still not ready for a relationship. She finished her performance and tossed her hair back with the full drama of a tiny adult. That's how she turned him down. So, Uncle Fu, you still have a chance. She already looked so much like Yi Tongning when she pulled that serious face. The resemblance was uncanny. This little girl was way too sharp for her age. Off to the side, Yi Rong shook his head. Mom, did you know your daughter just sold you out? Knowing his rival was out of the picture, Fu Hanbai felt light, electric. Like he could knock out 50 pull-ups. No. Better idea. Go back and arrange more flowers. Go for it, Uncle Fu. I'm giving you 2 little red flowers. Yi Jin pulled a fresh sheet of paper from her bag. She drew 2 careful red flowers with her oil pastel and handed the paper to Fu Hanbai. This was the first time anyone had given him a gift like this. Surprised, he looked at her. Why 2 little red flowers? In kindergarten, when we do a good job, the teacher gives us little red flowers. You gave me a flower today, so I'm giving you little red flowers. Why 2, though? I only gave you 1. Because Uncle Fu is handsome. By the end, Yi Jin got a little shy, so she had definitely inherited her mother's weakness for a good-looking face. Fu Hanbai did not know whether to laugh or what. He folded the paper carefully, not a single crease, and tucked it away. A certificate of honor, straight from his daughter. His eyes fell on the oil pastels in Yi Jin's hand. They bothered him way more than they should have. He told Yi Jin to wait right there, then he hurried out of the shop. Tang Shu watched him leave. She had accidentally overheard yet another juicy secret. Less than 2 hours later, Fu Hanbai was back. He walked in carrying a huge bag and headed straight for the little table. Yi Rong. Yi Jin. Like a kid showing off a prize, he pulled items from the bag one by one. At each time, the little girl clapped and squealed, her eyes turning into sparkly stars. My merry paints. Holbein 124 color pencil and watercolor sets. Canson sketch pads. The whole table disappeared under top brand art supplies. None of these brands were sold anywhere in Jiangyang town. The little girl dove in, Completely dazzled, Yi Rong glanced at the box placed near his feet. An Apple desktop computer. Over 20,000 yuan. He looked away after one glance. Enemy sugar-coated bullets. Ye Jin had already defected. He had to hold the line. Ling Qian heaved the massive bag of fertilizer through the flower shop door and stopped short. Mr. Fu was running on a treadmill. She set the bag down with a grunt and wiped the sweat off her forehead. It was blazing outside. How did the man have energy to run indoors? And that machine definitely hadn't been there when she locked up last night. Mr. Fu, when did you get a treadmill? This morning. Was he hitting middle age, worried about his stamina? Ling Qian glanced at the muscles in his arms and shook her head sympathetically. Probably all for show. She wondered if Missy knew about this. Mr. Fu pointed at the table without breaking stride. Everything on that list, ready by Friday. Yes, sir. Ling Qian dragged herself over. What choice did she have? She was just the assistant. She picked up the list, scanned it, and her eyebrows rose as though that's why he was running Friday morning. Clear skies. A light rain the day before had kept the heat in check. Yi Tongning was up early, prepping everything she needed. Today was the kindergarten's parent-child sports day. Yi Jin and Yi Rong had been counting down for weeks. Too wired to sleep last night, she couldn't afford to mess this up before they left. She coated both kids' faces with sunscreen. The sun wasn't brutal, but they'd be running around outside for hours. UV protection wasn't optional. She double-checked the bag, then headed out with her two little ones in their yellow hats downstairs. The extended Rolls-Royce was impossible to miss. Fu Hanbai stepped out and waved. What was this? Yi Tongning frowned and looked down at the twins. Yi Rong shrugged. Genuinely clueless. Yi Jin let go of her mother's hand and hid behind her brother, guilty as charged. Yi Jin, explain. Yi Tongning's voice was unusually sharp. She almost never used that tone. When she did, it meant business. Yi Jin dropped her head and clutched her brother's shirt. Her voice came out tiny. I asked Uncle Fu to come. Why? Mommy already said I'd go with you to sports day. Yi Tongning felt the knot tighten in her chest. She still didn't know how to face that man. The man was slick as an eel now. Erfeng said I didn't have a daddy, so I asked Uncle Fu to be my dad for just one day. I wanted the kids in my class to see I have a daddy too. A tall, handsome daddy who's really nice to me, just as good as theirs. Just one day. Can't I have one day? By the end, the little girl's eyes were red, tears trembling on her lashes. Yi Tongning's own eyes burned, her throat closed up. Every scolding word she'd lined up died before it could leave her mouth. Yi Jin just wanted a father. How was that her fault? Her daughter wasn't asking for enough. She knelt and pulled both kids into her arms, pressing their small backs until she could breathe again. Fu Hanbai watched them from the car, something sharp and aching cracking open in his chest with every heartbeat. He saw the three of them stand and walk toward him. He opened the back door fast. The drive was silent. Even bubbly Yi Jin just sniffled, her nose pink, saying nothing, but kids' moods turn on a dime. When they pulled up to the kindergarten and saw the bright decorations everywhere, Yi Jin came alive. She turned into a little sparrow, ready to fly straight onto the field. The luxury Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance drew every teacher's and parent's stare. Way too conspicuous, Teacher Zhong. was baffled whose family could afford a car like that. Then she saw who climbed out, and her eyes went huge. Wasn't that Yi Jin and Yi Rong's mom? And the man was. Yi Jin dragged Fu Hanbai over to Teacher Zhong, her little nose in the air, practically radiating pride. Teacher Zhong, this is my daddy. Oh, hello. Teacher Zhong recovered fast and nodded at Fu Hanbai's sharp brows, imposing presence. He actually did look a little like Yi Jin, and he was practically a carbon copy of Yi Rong. Why Yi Jin and Yi Rong's father was that wealthy? The family had been absurdly low-key. Fu Hanbai answered with a short nod. The field was buzzing, little flags everywhere. Kids collected colored ribbons for their classes from the teachers. Yi Jin and Yi Rong's group, Class 2, middle class, got purpled. Yi Tongning and Fu Hanbai took the ribbons and tied them around their wrists. Their event hadn't started yet, so they sat on the school-provided stools and watched the other kids race. The sun was climbing. Fu Hanbai pulled a large umbrella from his bag, opened it to shade the three of them, then brought out snacks. He asked the kids what they wanted. Well prepared, Yi Tongning thought. Pressing her lips together. A race started up ahead and the crowd packed in tight. The small town field had no bleachers. Anyone stuck behind a tall person saw nothing. Yi Rong didn't care. He wasn't into sports day anyway. But Yi Jin was bouncing. Frustrated. Fu Hanbai scooped her up and set her on his shoulders. Can you see now? Yi Jin froze at first. It was so high up, but the big hand under her held her steady, kept her safe. She relaxed and started cheering for the race. Yi Tongning watched them, distracted. Then she felt a small hand grip hers. Yi Rong. He looked up at her, dead serious. It's okay if we don't have a daddy. The next event was the relay race. The one Yi Jin and Yi Rong had signed up for. The teachers lined the kids up and marched them off. That left Fu Hanbai and Yi Tongning alone. The silence was suffocating. Fu Hanbai scooted his stool closer. She scooted hers away. He stopped. Yi Tongning turned her head. I did it. What? I raised them without spending a single penny of your money. I won. She lifted her chin and met his eyes, her own already brimming. I didn't use the kids to blackmail you. I didn't leak anything to the press. I raised them alone with my own hands. You didn't want them back then, so why are you here now, playing good father? Or is it that Fu Corporation needs an heir and you've decided to steal the children I raised? A stone lodged in Fu Hanbai's chest. He couldn't breathe. He was a bastard. Tongning. He pulled her trembling body against him, his voice cracking low. I'm not making excuses for who I was. I'm not trying to take the kids. I just want to fix what I broke. I know I messed up. Be a deed so bad I don't deserve your forgiveness, but even a death row inmate gets an appeal. Tongning, you're the judge handing down my sentence. Give me a second trial. See if you can commute death to life. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you and the kids. She shoved him away and wiped her eyes. Her voice shook. Judge, death sentence. Life. I can't argue with you. He handed her a pack of tissues. Tongning, I'm not going to keep saying I'm sorry. I want to prove it with every move I make from now on. But I do want to say thank you for holding on this long, for never quitting. Raising them alone must have wrecked you. You've worked so hard. Yi Tongning dabbed at her tears with a tissue, refusing to look at him. Once the wave of emotion passed, All she felt was regret. How had she lost control like that? Crying in front of Fu Hanbai, it was practically an admission of weakness. Surrender. He understood her embarrassment. He was enough of a gentleman to look away. Luckily, the moment didn't last. The loudspeaker crackled, announcing the start of Yi Jin and Yi Rong's relay race. Kindergarten races had no strict rules, boys and girls ran together. Both kids were representing Class 2 of the middle grade that they'd been arguing for a while, so the front rows were packed. Fu Hanbai, tall as he was, could see clearly from the back. Yi Tongning, not so much. He shot her a questioning look. Do you want to sit on my shoulders? Yi Tongning glared at him, a blush spreading across her cheeks. Dream on. Fu Hanbai coughed awkwardly. He was innocent, he really hadn't been thinking anything else. He just wanted her to see, but now he had plenty of other ideas. He sneaked a glance at her, imagining her perched on his shoulders, and his ears burned. No, stop. Can't think about that right now. Yi Tongning had no idea what was running through his head. Since they were in the back and not blocking anyone, she laid a tissue on a stool and climbed up to watch. Fu Hanbai stood diagonally behind her, one hand hovering near her back in case she fell. He kept just enough distance not to brush her skin. He was still a convicted man, after all. All he could do was let his eyes trace the curve of her waist, the shape of her hips. He swallowed hard, like a wolf eyeing prey it couldn't have. The starting gun fired, and Fu Hanbai reluctantly dragged his gaze to the track. On the red track, little runners with colored armbands pumped their legs as fast as they could go. Yi Jin was on the second leg. She grabbed the baton in third place among 5 lanes and took off, her tiny legs churning. The parents around them were more hyped than the kids, screaming names, cheering wildly. Fu Hanbai figured that if other kids got that kind of energy, Yi Jin should too. He swallowed his pride and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Go Yi Jin will win." His voice boomed, raw and powerful. Other parents stopped watching the race to stare at the guy with the massive lung capacity. Fu Hanbai didn't flinch. He was used to being the center of attention. He kept shouting, "Yi Jin, come on." His naturally deep voice cracked as he pushed it too high. Yi Tongning quietly climbed off the stool and scooted it away. Who was this embarrassing man? She didn't know him. The relay entered its final stretch. Yi Rong took the last baton and ran like his life depended on it, his face twisting with effort. He really wanted to win. Yi Tongning was used to seeing her son's cool, composed little face. Watching him like this caught her off guard, and no matter how mature Yi Rong acted, he was still just a kid. Yi Tongning forgot her shyness and yelled encouragement too. Right before the finish line, Yi Rong overtook the frontrunner by a hair. He bent over, hands on his knees, panting, searching for Yi Jin. She burst through the crowd and threw her arms around him. Brother, we're first place." Watching them win, Yi Tongning clapped excitedly from the stool. She lost her balance and almost fell, but Fu Hanbai had been watching. He caught her around the waist just in time. Her hands instinctively grabbed his neck. Their faces were inches apart, eyes locked. There was something deep and tender in his dark eyes that made her heart skip a beat. She lowered her lashes, afraid to meet his gaze. Had he always looked at her like that? She was so stunned she forgot to let go. And since she didn't, he wasn't about to. It had been so long since he'd touched her, he'd hold on as long as he could. Mom. Yi Jin and Yi Rong's voices shattered the strange tension. Yi Tongning yanked her hands back and jumped off the stool. Fu Hanbai reluctantly withdrew his hand from her waist, his fingers brushing hers as he savored the contact, reluctant to let go. The race was over and the crowd dispersed. Yi Jin and Yi Rong spotted their mom and ran over, buzzing with excitement. Mom, we won first, did you see? Yi Jin was over the moon, grabbing Yi Tongning's hand and repeating herself. Yi Rong rested his hands on his head, pretending not to care, but Yi Tongning caught the faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He was happy too. Fu Hanbai watched the three of them. A picture of warmth. He pulled out his phone and snapped a picture. Even if he never earned Tongning's forgiveness, at least he'd have this memory. Once Yi Jin had calmed down a little, Fu Hanbai walked over and crouched in front of the kids. Yi Rong, Yi Jin, first place, amazing. What gift do you want? Yi Jin's eyes lit up. I want shares of Fu Corporation. Her clear, childish voice rang out. Yi Tongning, who had been drinking water, choked, spraying it everywhere and coughing violently. Fu Hanbai patted her back to help her breathe. A mix of exasperation and amusement. He asked Yi Jin, why do you want Fu Corporation shares? Yi Jin glanced at her brother, who was pretending to study the sky. Yi Rong told me to say it. He said if Uncle Fu asks what you want, tell him you want Fu Corporation shares. Yi Rong, traitor. Yi Tongning pulled the kids aside and started lecturing them. Fu Hanbai, though, seriously considered Yi Jin's request as their father. He needed to make up for all the missed gifts, birth, full month, 100-day, every birthday. Fu Corporation shares weren't a bad idea. He settled on a stake and texted his assistant Ling to draft a stock gift agreement. Yi Tongning had no idea that with one text, he just decided to give away shares worth hundreds of millions without a second thought. The loudspeaker crackled again. Parents signed up for the 100-meter dash. Please report to the West Playground. Fu Hanbai took off his jacket and laid it on a stool. He stretched, loosening up. He'd been running on the treadmill at the flower shop all week for this moment, to win glory for his son and daughter. He used to work out regularly in his top-floor office at Fu Corporation. He wasn't past his prime. Winning a kindergarten race in Jiangyang town, easy. Yi Jin pumped her little fist at him. Go, Uncle Fu. He flashed her a #1 sign and jogged toward the playground. Yi Tongning grabbed the kids and snagged front row seats. She watched the group of fathers lining up at the starting line. Among the slightly pudgy, out-of-shape dads, Fu Hanbai stood out like a crane among chickens. T 6'1". He already had the advantage: broad shoulders, long legs, sharp brows, piercing eyes. He looked like a magazine cover. When he saw Yi Tongning and the kids in the front row watching him, a soft smile spread across his face and he waved. The moms beside Yi Tongning started whispering, wondering whose kid's father that was so handsome, and they'd never seen him before. Yi Tongning blended right in, pretending to look around curiously too. Who was that man waving at? She had no idea. Yi Jin wanted to shout that Uncle Fu was her dad, but as soon as she opened her mouth, Yi Rong clamped a hand over it. Mom said kids who lie get really long noses. Yi Jin pouted but kept quiet. The starting gun fired. Fu Hanbai shot off the line like an arrow, leaving the other fathers by a wide margin. Yi Jin bounced up and down. Uncle Fu was amazing, Yi Rong shrugged. Pretty average. About as good as him, really. By the 50-meter mark, it was obvious who would win. Fu Hanbai was way ahead. He glanced at the other dads on the track and slowed slightly, crossing the finish line by just a hair. He knew these fathers were heroes to their kids too. They'd probably taken time off work just for this sports day. He wanted to save them face. Before, he never would have thought like that. He used to crush his opponents mercilessly. Life in Jiangyang town had changed him. All thanks to Tongning and the kids. He waved in their direction. Yi Jin was ecstatic, her face splitting into a huge grin. Uncle Fu came first. Tongning's icy expression melted. For a moment, she forgot all their past grudges. She took Yi Jin and Yi Rong by the hand and started walking toward him to greet him, but halfway there, someone blocked her path. "You're Yi Jin and Yi Rong's mother, we need to talk." A sharp, shrill voice came from in front of her. Looking at the three people before her, Yi Tongning froze. It was Erfeng and her parents. Erfeng was a sturdy little girl with a dark complexion, her cheeks flushed bright red and a single ponytail sticking straight up from the top of her head. She had attitude written all over her. She clutched her mother's hand, her small face smug, like a scrappy cub who'd lost a fight, and dragged her full-grown tiger parents back as backup. Erfeng's mother was a big, broad-shouldered woman with a blunt frame, a wide forehead, and sharp, upturned eyes that made her look terrifying. Her words landed like hammer blows, each syllable deliberate and heavy. "Look here, Yi Jin and Yi Rong's mom, what kind of discipline are you running? Your kids are bullies at school, you get that? They made my Erfeng cry. I mean really cry. Broke my heart. The child I coddle like a precious gem, and your kids treated her like dirt." As she spoke, she jabbed a finger at Yi Tongning, 3 gold rings flashing on her hand. "You're giving me an answer today." She planted both hands on her hips and glared. Erfeng copied her mother's stance down to the last detail, hands on her hips, glaring right alongside her. Yi Jin was on the verge of frustrated tears. Erfeng started it. She was the one who said those mean things first. How did it get twisted around so she and her brother were the bullies? It made no sense. Yi Rong had already read the situation. He slipped out of his mother's grip and ran ahead to get reinforcements. Yi Tongning's brow furrowed. She tightened her hold on Yi Jin, silently telling her to stay calm. "Erfeng's mom, you can't just say that. Look at your daughter, then look at mine. You really expect anyone to believe my kids bullied yours?" Erfeng was tall and solid next to her. Yi Jin and Yi Rong, perfectly average height for their age, looked almost delicate in comparison. Erfeng's mother opened her mouth, then shut it, caught by the obvious logic. When she found her voice again, it had turned even sharper. "Don't you twist this around on me. The only thing I know is my Erfeng came home crying because your kids picked on her. That's the truth." Yi Jin couldn't hold it in any longer. Her big, dark eyes were rimmed red. She stared at Erfeng, her small mouth pressed into a thin line, and her voice trembled so hard the words came out broken. Erfeng said, "She said I don't have a daddy," she said it first. Erfeng's mother rolled her eyes. "So what? My Erfeng was just stating facts. She's always been an honest kid. She told the truth. She didn't do anything wrong. Yi Jin and Yi Rong don't have a father, do they?" The words landed like a slap. Yi Jin broke. She threw herself into Yi Tongning's arms and burst into loud, ragged sobs that shattered something deep inside Yi Tongning's chest. Even a clay figurine has a temper. And Yi Tongning was no clay figurine right now. She didn't care about keeping up appearances or playing nice. Anyone who dared bully her babies right in front of her, she wanted nothing more than to roll up her sleeves, grab this arrogant woman by the hair, and teach her a hard lesson about running her mouth. But Erfeng's father stood right behind them, watching with a predator's stillness, buzzed hair, black leather jacket, a dark green tiger tattoo crawling up from his collar. His biceps flexed as he shifted his weight. What was she supposed to do? Yi Tongning looked down at her daughter sobbing in her arms, and for a moment, she felt completely lost. Tangled in confusion and helplessness, she pulled Yi Jin tighter against her, her spine going rigid. She refused to show even a flicker of weakness or fear. She knew this woman would latch onto any crack in her armor and tear it wide open, would only get worse. Fu Hanbai arrived fast, Yi Rong leading the way, and this was the scene that stopped him cold. His Tongning, she looked so fragile, like a strong wind might knock her over, but he knew better. She was a cactus covered in thorns. The weight of life, the grind of struggle, none of it could break her easily. Give her a single drop of water and she'd survive, tough it out, push through until she bloomed a bright little yellow flower. But this resilient woman now stood with red-rimmed eyes, getting berated and openly disrespected. And Yi Jin, the little girl he would spoil to the ends of the earth, the one he'd lasso the moon for if she asked for a star, was sobbing uncontrollably in her mother's arms. He'd only stepped away for a few minutes. How had his girls been cornered like this? He took one step forward, planting himself directly in front of Yi Tongning. His voice was ice. "I'm Yi Jin and Yi Rong's father. You got a problem with me?" Fu Hanbai's brows were drawn low, his gaze sharp as a blade cutting through the space between them. He was a man used to command, to giving orders and having them followed. Every word out of his mouth carried a weight of authority that made people instinctively want to lower their heads. Erfeng's mother was exactly the type to bully the weak and cave to the strong. The second a real opponent appeared, her arrogance deflated like a punctured balloon. She looked resentful, but didn't dare let it show too openly. The expression twisting her face was almost comical. Little Erfeng's mouth fell open in disbelief. She stared up at the towering man, her eyes darting between him and the twins. Since when did Yi Jin and Yi Rong have such a powerful-looking daddy? He was way cooler than her own dad. Sensing she wasn't getting anywhere today, Erfeng's mother forced a sheepish smile and tried to tug Erfeng away. Fu Hanbai blocked her path. "Since this is all just a misunderstanding, don't you think Erfeng should apologize to Yi Jin and Yi Rong?" Fu Hanbai smiled, but the smile stopped well short of his eyes. It was just kids messing around and no need to make a federal case out of it. Reluctant, Erfeng's mother yanked at Erfeng's sleeve, signaling her to apologize. Erfeng lowered her head, unwilling, her voice barely a whisper. She crammed 6 words into what sounded like 2. "Yijin sorry. Happy now?" Erfeng's mother bit out through clenched teeth. Fu Hanbai kept smiling, one eyebrow raised a fraction. "And it seems you were pretty rude to my wife just now. She's good-natured, she won't hold it against you, but me, I've got a small heart. I need an apology from you first." He stood there like a wall, the message crystal clear. No apology, no exit. What kind of man are you, with that clean-cut face, honestly? Erfeng's mother didn't want to bow. She shot a desperate look back at her husband. Erfeng's father was all bluster and no backbone. The tough guy act was mostly for show, but he still had to step up now. He moved forward, trying to smooth things over. Erfeng's mom was out of line. But she was just protecting our kid. We're all parents here. Let's be reasonable. He extended a hand for a handshake, a peace offering. Fu Hanbai let out a cold laugh. He'd been in business far too long not to see through this man's little game. Still, he reached out and clasped Erfeng's father's hand in a solid grip. A tea first. The man kept his composure. Then his expression started to crack. Sweat beaded on his forehead and slid down his temples. He tried to pull his hand back, but Fu Hanbai didn't let go. That grip was like iron, clamping down without mercy. Erfeng's father's face contorted in pain. Only then did Fu Hanbai, with a flicker of cold amusement, release him. He draped one arm around Yi Tongning and the kids, steering them away. Before leaving, he tossed a single icy glare at Erfeng's mother. That look sent a shiver racing down her spine. She made a mental note to warn Erfeng, never, ever mess with Yi Jin and Yi Rong again, but she had more immediate problems. She turned to her husband, who was still trembling from the pain. "Honey, what's wrong? You're scaring me." Little Yi Jin cried in her mother's arms for a long time before the sobs finally faded into hiccups. Her face was still blotchy and red. Fu Hanbai's heart ached at the sight. He pulled a tissue from his pocket and carefully dabbed at the tears still clinging to her lashes. "You're turning into a little tear-streaked kitten." Yi Tongning glanced at him but didn't stop him. Yi Rong held his mother's hand, walking quietly on her other side. Only then did Yi Jin register any shyness. She buried her face against her mother's shoulder, peeking at Fu Hanbai from behind it. "Uncle Fu, you were so cool back there. Cooler than Uncle Shen." Fu Hanbai's eyebrows lifted. It felt good to hear his daughter praise him like that. But it wasn't enough that she thought so. He needed the mother and son to feel it too. He glanced at the two of them, both wearing unreadable expressions, and let out a quiet sigh. "Still a long road ahead. I didn't bully Erfeng. She said me and Yi Rong didn't have a daddy first, so Yi Rong fought back." Yi Jin's small face still held a spark of defiance as she recounted it. Fu Hanbai stroked her soft hair, a bitter taste flooding his mouth. He was the real reason this whole mess happened. He wasn't some hero swooping in on a cloud. He was the villain who'd left Yi Tongning and the kids vulnerable to this kind of cruelty in the first place. "I know you and Yi Rong are good kids. Your mom raised you right. You don't pick on people for no reason. Then next time someone says that, can I say you're my daddy?" Fu Hanbai looked into Yi Jin's wide, still teary-eyed. He couldn't bring himself to say no, but he knew he didn't have the right to say yes. He dropped his gaze, unable to face the hope in her eyes. His voice came out low. "Yi Jin." Yi Tongning's voice cut in, flat and indifferent. "You're just pretending. If you don't want to, then don't." Fu Hanbai's heart nearly stopped. He nodded so fast he could barely form the words, "I want to. I'll do it." Yi Rong watched from the side, slowly shaking his head. This man was hopeless. A sudden crack of thunder split the sky, and summer barreled into Jiangyang town on the back of a torrential rain. The season hit its peak heat in a matter of days. A draft swept through the hallway outside the flower shop, flipping the pages of a wall calendar one by one. Days that had already passed got ripped off and tossed in the trash, forgotten. Over half the year was gone before anyone noticed, and no one had expected it. Fu Hanbai least of all that he had been running a flower shop in this small town. For almost 2 months now. Night settled in. Moonlight spilled across the ground like silver, scattered stars pricking the dark. Peaceful and quiet, Ling, his assistant, sat on a stool inside the shop, trimming leaves off flower stems and listening to music. She could almost get used to this kind of life. 2 months ago, if someone had told her she would be running a small-town flower shop with Mr. Fu, she would have thought they had lost their mind, but it happened naturally. That was just life, Ling. Chen figured. Fu Hanbai stood at the other end of the work table, arranging flowers into a basket. He grabbed a handful of wrapped candy from the box next to him and tossed it in. Then he picked up a stack of fresh-cut watermelon slices and turned to head out. Even in this heat, their CEO still dressed the part. Button-down shirt, pressed trousers, leather shoes, socks, the full package. Ling gave him a thumbs up. Internally, she wondered just how heavy her boss's vanity baggage really was. That if Fu Hanbai could hear that thought, he would probably dock her pay out of sheer indignation. This was not vanity. This was uniform seduction. Uniform seduction. Did she even understand the concept? Next door, the dessert shop had a small sign hanging on the door. No CEOs or dogs allowed. Fu Hanbai had adapted well. He was a flower shop owner now, not a CEO. He checked his reflection in the glass door, tidied his hair, and walked inside carrying the load. The dessert shop was already closed for the day. Tang Shu, the employee, was wiping down tables. Yi Jin and Yi Tongning were sprawled together on the couch watching TV. Yi Rong sat at a small table in the back, reading. Uncle Fu. Yi Jin spotted him and ran over, holding up the small flower basket. When she noticed the candy inside, her face lit up. She immediately started scooping it out and stuffing handfuls into the tiny pockets sewn into her dress. Yi Jin. Yi Tongning did not even look away from the screen, but she knew exactly what was going on. You've had way too much candy lately. No more today, or your teeth are going to hurt. You want to go to the hospital? The little girl's face fell. Obediently, she pulled the candy back out piece by piece and handed it to Fu Hanbai. If you keep bringing her candy, don't bother coming over. That was directed at Fu Hanbai. He knew when he was in the wrong and did not dare argue. His progress with Yi Tongning had been painfully slow lately, so he had to tread lightly. Compared to that, disappointing his little girl was a price he had to pay. I brought some cut watermelon. You want some? Watermelon. Yi Jin's eyes went wide. In the space of a few minutes, her expression had brightened, dimmed, and brightened again, like a voice-activated light bulb. Fu Hanbai could not help but laugh. He opened one of the containers and took a box to Yi Rong first. Yi Rong glanced at the watermelon the same way he always did, flat and unreadable. Then went back to his book. Fu Hanbai had figured out this kid by now. If he did not push the watermelon away, it meant he would eat it. Back at the front couch, Fu Hanbai opened a box for Yi Tongning and handed her a fork. She gave him a look, glanced at the watermelon, and took it anyway. That watermelon had looked expensive. She was not about to waste it. Fu Hanbai sat down and opened a box for himself. He barely ate any of it. Mostly, he fed pieces to Yi Jin. Once she was full, she sprawled across the couch, drowsy. Yi Tongning pulled a small blanket over her belly. Being able to sit here like this, the three of them eating watermelon together, was already enough for Fu Hanbai. This small step had taken him almost 2 months of relentless effort. Yi Tongning was still lukewarm toward him. But he believed in the heat of his own sincerity. He could melt the ice in her heart. Tang Shu finished cleaning up, said goodnight, and left. Yi Tongning told her to take a box of watermelon with her. Fu Hanbai had brought way too much, and no chance they would finish it all before it went bad. Fu Hanbai stayed to watch TV. The show was some variety program. Actors performed on stage, a panel of seasoned judges critiqued them, and the audience clapped on CUE.by the end of one episode. Those people's hands had to be numb. Fu Hanbai had zero interest in this kind of thing, but Yi Tongning seemed into it, so he forced himself to find some entertainment. The longer he watched, the more bored he got. He was nearly drifting off when the host's booming voice cut through. Let's welcome our next powerhouse actress, Tang Shui. Fu Hanbai jolted awake, all drowsiness gone. Wait. Who? On screen, Tang Shui made her grand entrance with a swell of dramatic music. She wore a long red dress, classic red lips, big waves, platform heels. She walked like she was 8 feet tall. The feed cut to a backstage interview. A staff member asked how she felt about her first modern drama. Tang Shui smiled into the camera, saying she had done historical pieces before and that a contemporary role felt refreshing. The staff asked what she found most interesting about this project. Tang Shui said she played a woman in a relationship with a tycoon CEO. The male lead was arrogant, dominant, intense. Then her expression shifted, turning demure. She said her real-life boyfriend held a similar position, but he was elegant and thoughtful. He never lost his temper with her. She found the contrast amusing, given the rumors already swirling around her. Who else could that be? The CEO of Fu Corporation. Fu Hanbai. The interviewer played along, glancing at the ring on her finger and asking if a happy announcement was coming soon. Tang Shui smiled shyly, neither confirming nor denying. She only said it depended on the man's intentions. Fu Hanbai stared at the screen, his frown deepening. This woman was addicted to stirring up drama. When had there ever been talk of a happy announcement? Since when was he getting married? Yi Tongning was no fool. She would not buy such a cheap act, right? He looked up. Yi Tongning was watching him with that knowing half smile. He knew that smile all too well. Alarm bells went off in his head. He dropped to one knee in front of her so fast his joints cracked. He wanted to take her hand but did not quite dare. Instead, he raised 4 fingers like a vow. Tongning, I swear everything I'm about to say is true. If I lie, let me die a horrible death. Yi Tongning watched him, calm and patient, waiting to see what nonsense would come out of his mouth this time. Tang Shui's father and my father know each other slightly, barely nodding acquaintances. She set up journalists at a banquet without my knowledge, walked up and started talking to me, and used the camera angle to fabricate a rumor. She was trying to force my hand, but I shut her down completely. She's addicted to the act. The more you react, the more she gets off on it, so I always ignore her. After that, I made a point of avoiding her entirely at every major event so she would not get another chance to spread her lies. Yi Tongning spoke at last, her voice flat. You sure know a lot about her. She did not even hear the jealousy in her own tone, but Fu Hanbai caught it instantly. His eyebrow lifted. He reached for her hand, tentative, testing her expression. Tongning, are you jealous? Jealous? Don't flatter yourself. She yanked her hand back and turned away from him. A smile tugged at the corner of Fu Hanbai's mouth. She was shy. He could not resist. He wanted to see her face. He stood up, circled to where she had turned, and knelt in front of her again. She turned the other way. He followed. A ridiculous little chase around the couch. When there was nowhere left for her to go, Yi Tongning got genuinely irritated and smacked him hard across the back. He froze. Fu Hanbai crouched there, looking pathetic. Because of our father's connection, I did not want to make things too ugly, so I never clarified publicly before. I hoped she would take the hint and back off, but now it's obvious she's just addicted to the game. You can ask Ling. I swear I have never interacted with Tang Shuer in private, not once. Don't worry. I've only ever had you. Before I met you. His voice dropped to a mumble. Yi Tongning frowned. What? I can't hear you. Did you skip dinner or something? Fu Hanbai had to say it louder. Before I met you, I was still a virgin. His voice echoed through the empty shop. Yi Rong glanced up, his expression helpless. Yi Tongning stared at him. Yi Rong turned back to his book. He really, truly did not need to know that. Fu Hanbai straightened his face. Tongning, wait for me. I'm calling legal right now. We're issuing a statement. Yi Tongning shrugged with practiced indifference. Not her problem. Fu Hanbai hauled himself to his feet. His knees had gone numb from crouching so long. He steadied himself on the couch for a moment, then pushed open the door and stepped outside to make the call. Half an hour later, the official Fu Corporation legal department account posted a statement on social media that set the gossip crowd on fire. Lately, a group of trolls has been spreading rumors about Fu Corporation's CEO Fu Hanbai's personal life. It's gotten bad enough to affect him directly, so we're setting the record straight. Allegations like Fu secretly married a woman with the surname Tang or Fu and actress Tang Shuer are about to tie the knot are completely false. The internet is not a lawless free-for-all. If these rumors keep spreading, CEO Fu will pursue legal action to the fullest extent. The moment that statement hit, the internet lost its mind. Normally, when a celebrity's legal team threatens a lawsuit, nobody takes it seriously, but this was Fu Corporation's legal department. When they said they'd sue, they meant it. And they never lost. The gossip hounds, always first in line for drama, pounced. So CEO Fu really has nothing to do with Tang Shuer? A statement this hard-hitting means he wants zero association with her. It was baseless speculation from the start. There's one photo of them at a banquet, and zero private shots anywhere. Then who was Tang Shuer talking about when she said she had a boyfriend? Probably just PR. Remember her last drama? She played up the romance with her co-star the whole time, then dropped him cold the second the show ended. Within minutes, the tag Fu Hanbai Tang Shuer exploded. While the internet dissected the supposed CEO scandal, An old post from a month ago resurfaced. A blogger had wandered into Tongning flower shop in Jiangyang town and been floored by the owner's looks. They had snapped 2 blurry, mostly side profile shots and posted them online with the caption, "Gorgeous, gorgeous. Absolutely stunning," the flower shop owner. A few people had commented that the guy looked exactly like CEO Fu Hanbai, but the post had barely made a ripple back then. Now, with Fu Hanbai's name trending everywhere, that old post blew up. Everyone marveled at how 2 people could look so incredibly alike. Most people laughed it off, though no way the head of Fu Corporation would be selling flowers. He'd have to be out of his mind. Then some sharp-eyed internet sleuth dug up a vacation notice from Fu Hanbai. The dates lined up perfectly with the photos. Things got murky fast. Wait. Could that actually be CEO Fu? Fu Hanbai had no idea his decision had set the internet on fire. He tucked his phone away and headed back inside, hoping to explain things properly to Yi Tongning. She lifted a finger to her lips, signaling him to stay quiet. Then she carefully picked up Yi Jin, who had fallen asleep on the couch, carried her to the bed in the back room, and eased the door shut. "Have Ling come over to watch the kids," she said to Fu Hanbai. "I need to talk to you." A summer night. The day's heat had faded slow. A breeze brushed against their skin, carrying a hint of coolness and the clear sound of crickets. Yi Tongning and Fu Hanbai walked along the narrow street. For a moment, she felt like she was living in another life. She'd figured they'd be strangers, if not outright enemies. Yet here they were, walking together in peace. Fate had a twisted sense of humor. Fu Hanbai's mind drifted back to winter, back when he and Yi Tongning had just started dating. They walked through the neighborhood like this, and he'd held her hand for the first time. If he could only go back, he'd never let go. They spoke at the exact same time, both startled. "You go first." Again, in unison. Yi Tongning let out a breath. "Last week, I visited my mom. I found out she'd been moved to a VIP suite. She told me you visit her often. Thank you for that." When she'd been pregnant, she hadn't told her mother the truth. Only that she'd gotten pregnant after a breakup. Last week, she hadn't just seen the upgraded room. Gift boxes were everywhere. Her mother, Hu Lingli, had assumed Fu Hanbai was an ex-boyfriend trying to win her back, so she'd only accepted the supplements she couldn't politely refuse. Hu Lingli had mentioned the young man was polite, that he visited often, and had even asked why they'd broken up and whether they'd ever get back together. Seeing the hope in her mother's eyes, Yi Tongning couldn't bring herself to tell the ugly truth. "That was the least I could do," Fu Hanbai said. He knew he had no right to act like it was a favor. He'd once threatened her using her own mother. A soft laugh came from beside him. He looked over. Yi Tongning's eyes were curved in a smile, but it wasn't a happy one. "What is it, Tongning?" "Nothing, just thinking about how strange life is." A pause, then she spoke again. "I never told you about my family, though you've probably already dug up everything on me." Fu Hanbai lowered his head, ashamed. "I want to hear it from you." "There's not much to tell. Ordinary family. My dad died in a car crash when I was in middle school. So my mom raised me by herself. I got into Capital University." Fu Hanbai stopped mid-step. Capital University. She'd never mentioned that. Yi Tongning turned back, her smile self-deprecating. "What? I don't look like someone who could get into Capital University. I even majored in business management." He quickly shook his head and caught up to her. And then? How could a capital university student have ended up? She said it lightly then. During my internship, my mom got acute myelitis that I quit my job and came back to take care of her. Her voice stayed even, so honestly, I find it kind of funny that I gave up everything to claw my way to where I was, and you just had it handed to you makes all my efforts feel like a joke. Tangning. His voice was thick with pain. The summer wind lifted her dark hair. She smiled at him, her eyes bright as stars. She looked as innocent as a high school girl that if not for the family crisis, she'd be working in some high-rise office right now, earning a solid salary, living a polished life. His Tangning had been through so much, but if she had walked that path, they never would have met. Heaven had given him a chance to cherish this girl, and somehow he'd become part of her suffering instead, so close, and yet so far. Fu Hanbai's expression turned dead serious. Tangning. It's okay. You're still young, you have a long road ahead. If you want to go back to school, I can help. Money, recommendation letters, whatever you need. I'll take care of the kids. She looked down. Let's not. I like the job I have now. I'm happy with it. His chest tightened. I mean it. Tangning. Do what makes you happy. Someday, someone is going to come along and love you with everything he has. Someone who'll protect you, be your rock. A low laugh escaped her. Are you seriously just complimenting yourself right now? You're wonderful. Tangning, you deserve someone who will love you completely. If it's not me, it'll be someone else. A beat, of course. I'm selfish enough to hope it's me. They both stopped walking, facing each other. The breeze rustled the leaves above them. His gaze was intense, earnest. Ye Tangning looked away first. The cicadas buzzed, traffic hummed in the distance. Her heart was a tangled mess. She turned. Let's head back. Ye Jin might be awake. Fu Hanbai followed. They retraced their steps. As their shops came into view, Fu Hanbai's phone rang. Ye Tangning watched his expression. Company trouble. She was sure of it. His brow stayed furrowed through the whole call. After he hung up, he looked at her, hesitant. She smiled. Easy work stuff? Go. I'm fine. He insisted on walking her to the door, promising he'd be back soon. Inside, Yi Tangning found Ling braiding Yi Jin's hair. Sweetie, you're awake? Mommy. Yi Jin threw herself into her arms, the half-finished braids unraveling. Yi Tangning settled her on the couch and started redoing her hair. Ling sidled closer, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Tangning, you and CEO Fu. This was their first time going out together. Something had to have happened. Ling's feelings were a mess. Part of her wanted Yi Tangning to forgive him. Part of her didn't want it to come too easily. After what he'd done, she'd be justified in never forgiving him at all. But Ling had watched how he'd been lately. She couldn't help hoping Yi Tangning would give him a chance to make things right. It was a strange feeling, like being the family of both the bride and the groom at once. Yi Tangning kept her expression blank under Ling's nosy stare. What's there to tell? Ling deflated. She raised 4 fingers. I swear on my honor. I won't breathe a word of it to CEO Fu. Yi Jin giggled at Ling's dramatic pose. Yi Tangning sighed and finally gave in. I'm not hiding anything. There's nothing between us, and he's going back to Haicheng soon. She kept her voice calm. He's used to the big city. A place this small won't hold him for long. He has a massive company to run. He'll leave eventually. If it's not now, It'll be someday. He only came because he feels guilty. Once he sees we're doing fine, he'll move on. Ling shook her head. She'd worked for CEO Fu for years. She knew he wasn't the type to go to all this trouble over guilt, and he definitely didn't have a short attention span. But this wasn't her place to meddle. CEO Fu, you're on your own. Ling stood up to say goodbye, heading back to close the flower shop for the night. When she opened the door, she saw Fu Hanbai standing right outside. She jumped. CEO Fu, I thought you'd already left for Haicheng? He turned. He'd changed back into his suit, his face stern, full CEO Fu mode. I was about to. His voice came out rough. How much of that conversation had he heard? Ling shook her head and ducked into her own shop. Let them sort themselves out. A few minutes earlier, Fu Hanbai had come back to the flower shop to change and grab his keys. He was on his way out when he'd heard his name from next door. His feet rooted to the ground. He'd been in Jiangyang town for a while now. Yi Tongning had softened toward him. He'd thought things were heading in the right direction. Her words hit him like a bucket of ice water. He hadn't done enough. He hadn't made her feel safe. That was why she still thought like that. But Tongning, don't underestimate his resolve. Without love, there would be no guilt. He would stay in Jiangyang town until she forgave him. And if she never did, he'd stay forever. He was about to walk away when something made him turn back and head into her bakery. Yi Tongning looked up, surprised. I thought you'd already gone back to Haicheng? Uncle Fu. Yi Jin's eyes lit up. He looked so handsome in that suit. Fu Hanbai stopped a few steps from the couch. He pulled a black card from his pocket, his face unreadable. Yi Tongning realized what he was about to do and moved to cover her ears, but it was too late. He leaned in close, voice low. I'm handing over my salary card. The password is your birthday. Covering her ears was useless. She dropped her hands and crossed her arms, shooting him a glare, but she didn't reach for it. Who asked for your card? He didn't flinch. He set the card on the table, his tone light. If I don't come back, then I've wasted the first half of my life. Think of it as a deposit. He took one last long look at her and their daughter, then, reluctantly, he turned. Tongning, wait for me back. Fu Hanbai left, and Yi Jin couldn't stop staring at the black card he'd given her. She turned it over and over in her hands, mesmerized. Yi Tongning stopped her. Yi Jin, what did I tell you? We don't touch other people's things. If something happened to that card, the three of them would be tied to Fu Hanbai for life, and he'd probably be laughing about it somewhere. Yi Jin pouted but handed the card over, her fingers dragging. Uncle Fu isn't other people, though. Yi Tongning sighed. So much for keeping him at arm's length. He'd already won over one of her own. She tidied up the shop a little, then took the kids home. On the way, she kept her voice light. Yirong, what book did you read today? The autobiography of Warren Buffett. It was interesting. His little face stayed expressionless. Yi Tongning shook her head. That kid never picked up anything meant for his age. She used to worry he was too mature, but she'd let it go. As long as he was happy, that was enough. Her apartment sat just a few minutes from the dessert shop. They reached the complex gate before the summer heat faded into evening. Cicadas screamed overhead, and a cluster of elderly neighbors sat on small stools out front, chatting and fanning themselves with palm leaf fans. Yi Tongning walked over and handed out slices of watermelon. Their faces lit up at the treat, and almost immediately they tugged her aside to gossip. In a town this small, Nothing stayed hidden long. The old neighbors knew everything, down to how many cloves of garlic the breakfast shop owner chopped every morning. Naturally, they knew all about Yi Tongning and Fu Hanbai Xiaoning. I saw the florist next door has a thing for you. He's a good-looking man, you should think about it. Exactly, plenty of fish in the sea. Don't hang everything on one tree. That ex-husband of yours hasn't been bothering you again, has he? Yi Tongning laughed it off, not really answering if they ever found out the florist and her ex-husband were the same man. She didn't want to imagine the looks on their faces. She'd saved a box of watermelon for Grandma Fang. Scanning the small crowd, she didn't see her. That was strange. Grandma Fang never missed the evening gossip session. Has anyone seen Grandma Fang today? Now that you mention it, I haven't seen her all day. You? Not me either. She didn't come out for breakfast this morning. Yi Tongning's brow tightened. A cold, bad feeling pressed against her ribs. She tried to remember the last time she'd really looked at Grandma Fang's face. Everything had seemed normal without another word. She turned and hurried up the stairs. She knocked hard on Grandma Fang's door. Grandma Fang, you home? It's Xiaoning. No answer. She knocked again, the metal door rattling. Grandma Fang? Grandma Fang, are you there? Still nothing. The neighbors sensed something wrong. They stopped fanning, exchanging uneasy glances. Yi Tongning's mind went cold, but her voice shook anyway. Someone call the property manager. The neighbors jolted into action. Mom, what's wrong? Kids picked up on everything. Yi Jin felt the tension and squeezed her mother's hand tighter. Nothing. Grandma Fang is fine. She probably just stepped out, that's all. Yi Tongning's voice was barely there, her gaze unfocused, like she was trying to convince herself. The property manager arrived fast, a security guard trailing with a resident directory. Yi Tongning scanned the list, found Grandma Fang's number, and dialed. Her hands trembled as she pressed the call button. Please don't let anything be wrong. The line rang and rang. Nobody picked up. Yi Tongning's heart clenched. Then, from inside the apartment, Teresa Teng's voice floated out, sweet and clear. You ask how deep my love is, how much I love you. An elderly man straightened up. That's it, that's her ringtone. The phone was inside, but nobody answered. Nobody came to the door. A horrible possibility cracked open inside Yi Tongning's mind. She felt the floor drop away. The air thickened. No one spoke. The cicadas kept screaming. Yi Tongning wet her dry lips and tightened her grip on both kids' hands. Call a locksmith. She took the children home first, telling Yi Rong to watch his sister. Yi Jin clung to her shirt. Mom, what happened to Grandma Fang? She went on a trip. A long one. Yi Tongning's voice cracked, but she swallowed down the tears. Will we see her again? She stroked Yi Jin's head, not ready to tell the truth. Maybe. Grandma Fang loves good kids. If you eat all your food and grow big and strong, maybe you'll see her again someday. Yi Jin let go immediately. Then I'll be really good. I promise. Mom, go help Grandma Fang. I'll take care of Yi Jin. Yi Rong's voice was low, too. He'd probably already guessed, but he knew better than to make things harder. Yi Tongning pulled them both into a hug, exhaustion bleeding through every move. Don't open the door for anyone. I'll lock it from outside. If you get bored, watch cartoons. If you get tired, go to sleep. Okay. Got it, Mom. Downstairs, The locksmith had already pried the door open. Security held the neighbors back while the property manager went inside. Yi Tongning waited, her pulse hammering. The manager came out, closed his eyes, and shook his head. Someone needs to call her children. She knew what he meant. Grandma Fang was gone, slipped away in the damp, sweltering dark. Quietly. She'd always been so cheerful, her laugh bouncing off every wall. Yi Tongning never knew she had a heart condition. Grandma Fang never mentioned it, never took medicine anywhere anyone could see. From the day Yi Tongning arrived in Jiangyang town, Grandma Fang had looked out for them more than anyone. When people whispered behind her back, a newcomer with 2 young kids, not sure how to handle the stairs, Grandma Fang had stood in the courtyard and hollered until her voice went hoarse. After that, nobody dared give her trouble. Grandma Fang lived alone. Her children barely visited once a year. She treated Yi Tongning like a daughter, Yi Jin and Yi Rong like her own grandkids. Every time she made something special, she brought a share to their door. The property manager said she was lying on the floor when he went in. Maybe a heart attack. Maybe she fell. It happened fast. Yi Tongning still couldn't make herself believe it. How could someone that kind leave so suddenly? Why did the universe always go after the ones just trying to survive? Someone called the police. Minutes later, the squad car pulled up. The complex, usually quiet at this hour, stirred uncharacteristically alive. Yellow tape stretched across Grandma Fang's door. The officers confirmed it was an accidental death. They took her phone and dialed the contact labeled son. A gruff, middle-aged voice answered, "Mom, I told you not to call at this hour. I'm busy, talk later." The line went dead. The cop sighed and redialed. This time he spoke first. "Hello, are you the son of Fang Yiren? Your mother has passed away at home. Please come as soon as possible." "What?" The man's voice went shrill. "What did you just say?" The officer repeated the news on the other end. Something clattered. Then came the sound of a man sobbing, raw, broken, all his earlier bluster gone. The neighbors shook their heads that if only he'd come when it mattered. 3 days later, they held Grandma Fang's funeral. She'd been well liked. Lots of people came to pay their respects. Yi Tongning met her son for the first time, a tired-looking middle-aged man with red-rimmed eyes. Mechanically thanking the mourners, she nodded at him, then guided the kids forward for their final goodbye. In the photo, Grandma Fang smiled brightly, the same way she always smiled when she welcomed Yi Tongning. Yi Tongning closed her eyes and prayed, "No more pain in heaven. I hope we meet again in another life." Grandma Fang. Yi Rong closed his eyes too, his small face solemn. Yi Jin didn't understand what was happening, but she copied her mother and brother. After the service, Yi Tongning decided to leave early. The kids were getting restless. She slipped the funeral money into the box and headed for the exit, but Yi Rong tugged her hand. "Mom, I need the bathroom." She took both kids to the restrooms. She and Yi Jin used the women's first, then she waited outside the men's room for Yi Rong. Minutes passed and no sign of him. Was his stomach upset? They hadn't eaten anything strange. A cold, aimless dread crept back into her chest. Just then, a man walked out of the men's room. She grabbed his arm. "Excuse me. Is there a little boy in there, about 5 years old?" The man looked confused and shook his head. "No one was in there when I went in." The blood drained from Yi Tongning's face. She didn't think about propriety. She dragged Yi Jin straight into the men's bathroom. The man stood frozen, staring. Yi Rong, are you in here? Yi Rong. Stop hiding from Mom. She shoved stall doors open, one after another, each one empty. Not this one. Not this one either. The doors slammed against the walls, the echoes ringing in the silence. Her heart felt like 1,000 needles stabbing all at once. The pain stole her voice. Tears blurred her vision, every ounce of strength drained from her body. She collapsed onto the cold floor. Yi Jin screamed, confused and terrified. Mom. Her Yi Rong was gone. Fu Hanbai wanted nothing more than to get back to Jiangyang town that he used to live for the work. Now all he wanted was his wife and kids close. But the company had hit a crisis. The kind you couldn't fix overnight, so he pushed himself to the edge. Living in his office around the clock. It was the only way to clear his desk fast enough to see Yi Tongning and their children. Things got so urgent that even Ling got pulled back from the flower shop, forcing it to close for now. Dark circles carved deep under his eyes, stubble roughened his jaw. He didn't care about any of it. His wife wasn't here to see him anyway. After days without real sleep, the mountain of documents had shrunk to a manageable stack. The end was in sight. He set down the file he'd been reading, rubbed his temples, then tipped his wrist to count what remained. That's when his phone rang. The small screen lit up, catching his reflection. Fu Hanbai picked it up and looked at the caller ID. His brow lifted. Tongning was calling him. On her own. Did she miss him that much? A flicker of warmth went through him. He cleared his throat before hitting answer. Tongning. No response through the phone. He heard traffic, blaring horns, the rumble of engines, and the ragged sound of her breathing. Tongning, what's wrong? What happened? His gut tightened. The smile vanished from his face. After a long pause, her voice came through, cracked and barely holding together. Yi Rong. Is gone. The words yanked him to his feet. He paced the office, brow furrowed hard. Gone? What do you mean gone? Yi Tongning's panic spilled out in jagged pieces. Yi Rong. Fu Hanbai forced his voice steady. Tongning, slow down. Tell me what happened. Is he out playing with friends? No, he went to the bathroom, and then he was just gone. It's all my fault. All my fault. I should have watched him. She broke down. She'd kept it together as long as she could, clinging to Yi Jin beside her. But the moment she heard Fu Hanbai's steady voice, the dam burst. He had that effect, like he could fix anything. How could she accept that Yi Rong had disappeared right under her watch, just this once, let her fall apart? She couldn't hold it alone. Hearing her sobs, Fu Hanbai felt something crack open in his chest. He wedged the phone between his shoulder and ear, grabbed his keys, forget the jacket, and headed for the stairs. Tongning, listen to me. Don't panic. I'm on my way. Stay on the line, and don't do anything reckless. You still have Yi Jin. I'll be there soon. Call Yi Rong's friends, but whatever you do, don't leave the house. His heart hammered. He wished he could teleport straight to her. He broke into a run through the Fu Corporation lobby, all his usual composure gone. Employees stared as he blew past them. Tongning. Yi Rong, please. Let nothing happen to them. In the pitch darkness, Yi Rong woke. His head was thick and heavy, dizzy, aching. It took a long moment before his brain came fully online and started taking stock. All he remembered was stepping into the bathroom. A big hand clamped over his mouth and nose, a sharp chemical smell, and then nothing. He'd been kidnapped. Rong tried to steady himself, but his small body trembled on the back seat of the car. No matter how mature he acted, he was still a child, not yet 6. What was he supposed to do? He struggled to open his eyes. His lids felt weighted with lead. The bumpy motion told him he was inside a moving vehicle. He tested his limbs. His hands and feet weren't tied. They must have figured a drugged kid couldn't fight back. He flexed his fingers. They worked. His heart pounded. On his wrist was his children's watch, the only link he had to the outside world. Slowly, he twisted his fingers, found the buckle, and worked it open. Then he slid the watch off, kept his body curled tight, bent his knees, and hidden by his clothes, slipped the watch into his sock. It took forever. By the time he finished, his back was soaked in cold sweat. Voices drifted from the front seat. Rong froze. He squeezed his eyes shut and didn't dare move. He couldn't remember exactly how he'd been lying, so he did his best to stay absolutely still. A slow, hesitant voice spoke first. "Are we really doing this? We could still dump the kid and run." Another voice, harsh, ruthless, cut in. "Shut up. You think if you let him go, he'll forgive you, and then what? You gonna hand over your kidney or my liver to pay off what we owe? There's no going back. If we're doing this, we're doing it big. Stop whining. You forget what Fu Hanbai did to us. He raided our company, destroyed everything. Finally, I get my shot. Who knew the cold bastard had a soft spot? That kid's got to be his next heir to Fu Corporation. He won't ignore his own blood. After this, we'll have everything. No more hiding." The slower man fell quiet. He seemed to buy it. Rong curled tighter, piecing it together. These men were Fu Hanbai's business rivals. They wanted money. Check if the kid's awake. Search him, check his pockets for a phone. Kids have those watches now. See if he's wearing one. Yeah, okay. Rong's heart jumped into his throat. Thank God he'd slipped the watch off earlier. He heard rustling, then felt someone lean over him. He kept his breathing steady, played dead weight. The man patted his pockets, shirt, pants, then lifted his sleeves to check his wrists. Then a hand moved down his leg, heading for his foot. Rong's fingers twitched. He was about to get caught. Then the harsh voice barked from the front. "What are you, stupid? Who wears a watch on their foot?" "Oh yeah." The hand on his leg pulled back, more rustling, and the man returned to the front seat. Only then did Rong exhale. Sweat slid down his forehead. That was way too close. The slow one asked, "How much should we ask for?" The other voice buzzed with excitement. "At least 10 million and owed 20. That much? You think he'll actually pay? He doesn't have a choice. That woman means everything to him. He walked away from his company to run a flower shop for her. His son's even more valuable. 20 million is pocket change for Fu Hanbai. You draft the message. Tell him to come alone with the cash. If he calls the cops, we kill the kid." The slow man typed, then showed the screen. The harsh-voiced one was clearly calling the shots. "Good." The ruthless man grabbed the phone, hit send, then powered it off and hurled it out the window. The phone arced through the air, hit the ground hard, and shattered. Fu Hanbai drove straight to Yi Tongning's building. He took the stairs 3 at a time and reached her door in seconds. "Tongning, it's me, open the door." His own voice startled him, raw and hoarse from no water. But that wasn't what mattered right now. The door cracked open, and he pushed through. This was only his second time inside this apartment, but nothing felt familiar anymore. Yi Tongning sat on the sofa, motionless, like a doll with the life drained out. The sight wrenched at him. "Where's Yi Jin?" he asked, walking closer. She didn't look up. Her voice came out flat and hollow, like a machine. She cried herself to sleep. She's in the bedroom. Inside, Fu Hanbai was just as panicked, but he couldn't let it show. If even a flicker of fear crossed his face, Yi Tongning would shatter. If this was a kidnapping, it was aimed at him. On the drive over, he'd run through every recent event in his mind. Nothing stood out. Business rivalries were always ruthless, and he'd made too many enemies to pin it on any one person fast enough. He lowered himself beside her. "Did you call Yi Rong's friends?" "I did. He doesn't have many friends anyway. He doesn't like playing with other kids. He sticks by me, always worrying about me." Her voice splintered, and the tears broke through again. Fu Hanbai pulled her into a tight hold. "It's not your fault, Tongning. You've done everything right." Yi Tongning buried her face against his shoulder. First, quiet tears, then small sobs, then a wailing that mangled her words until nothing was clear. Fu Hanbai felt the hot wetness soaking through the collar of his shirt. It twisted inside him like a knife. He held her tighter, like he could press every broken piece back together. He patted her back again and again, murmuring, "I've got people searching. We'll hear something soon. Yi Rong is smart. He'll be okay." That's when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It might be news. He couldn't ignore it. One arm still around Yi Tongning, he pulled out the phone with the other. The text on the screen made his pupils contract to pinpoint. "Mr. Fu, your son is with us. If you want him alive, bring 2 million in cash, non-sequential bills. Come alone to the back gate of Green Apple Farm on Old Street in Jiangyang Town midnight tonight. Cash for the kid. Don't even think about calling the cops or trying anything cute, or you'll be collecting a body." Fu Hanbai stared at the message on his phone. He knew instantly, a targeted kidnapping, aimed straight at him. He clenched his jaw, a storm raging behind his ribs, but kept his expression perfectly neutral. Yi Tongning was in no state to take another shock. He forwarded the message and the sender's details to his security team. "Trace that number." In the moments she wasn't looking, his eyes turned ice cold. He should have assigned them more protection. He'd been arrogant, assuming no one would find them here. They dared to come after him. If anything happened to Yi Rong, he didn't know what he'd do. His phone rang again. He thought it was his team and answered immediately. Silence on the other end. Fu Hanbai glanced at the caller ID, unknown number. Was this the kidnapper? He hit record. "Just in case, Dad," a small, trembling voice slipped through the speaker. Fu Hanbai went perfectly still. That voice. He'd imagined 1,000 times what it would sound like when Yi Rong or Yi Jin called him. "Dad." He never thought it would happen like this. Yi Tongning jolted, her crying cut off. Red-rimmed eyes locked onto the phone in Fu Hanbai's hand. She would know that voice anywhere. Yi Rong. "Yi Rong, it's Mom. Where are you?" She grabbed the phone, her hands shaking violently. Yi Rong was terrified. He'd snuck the call while the two men went outside to eat. The door was bolted from the outside. If they caught him with his smartwatch, the punishment would be brutal. The watch had 4 contacts: Mom, Grandma Hu Lingli, Teacher Zhong from preschool, And Fu Hanbai. He'd overheard the kidnappers set the drop for midnight. This might be his only chance. He didn't hesitate. He called Fu Hanbai. This wasn't about pride. He had to choose the path that kept him alive. Through the watch speaker, he could tell his mom and Fu Hanbai were together. She must be falling apart. Hearing her voice, Yi Rong's eyes welled up, but he fought the tears back. He had to use this call to give them as much information as possible. That was the fastest way to get rescued. I think it's some kind of factory. Fu Hanbai forced his voice steady. Is there a window? What's outside? Yi Rong stared at the wall, then squeezed his eyes shut. There's a window, but it's boarded up. I can't see anything. Yi Tongning pressed her knuckles so hard they went white. Who would do this? Who took her son? Fu Hanbai's frown deepened. Look around the room. Can you see anything at all? Smells? Yi Rong struggled to sit up, squinting into the dark lights. He could barely make out hulking shapes draped in black cloth. There's big things under black cloth. I can't tell what they are. Anything else? Fu Hanbai kept his tone gentle but urgent. They still didn't have enough. Yi Tongning felt a spark of hope flicker. She clasped her hands together and shut her eyes. Please, if there's a God, let Yi Rong get through this. Yi Rong looked down at his hands. They were smeared with black dust. He glanced at his clothes, same dark smudges. Then it clicked. He actually knew this one. For once, he was grateful he'd read all those books. Coal dust. Coal. There's a lot of coal in here, little pieces. Fu Hanbai let out a long breath. He pulled Yi Tongning close, supporting her trembling body. That's enough, son. You did great. Pretend to be asleep. Don't fight them, and don't let them see your watch. Mum and Dad are coming for you soon. Yi Tongning wanted to say more, but Yi Rong's voice went tight. They're back. The line went dead. She stared at the blank screen, then sank onto the sofa, untethered. Fu Hanbai gently took her hand and kissed the tears from the corner of her eye. Yi Rong was incredible. We can't fall apart now. Pull yourself together, okay? I recorded everything and sent it to my team. They're still in Jiangyang town. It's probably an abandoned factory on the outskirts, maybe a coal plant. The search area is tight. We'll find him soon. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the grief and fear had been burned away, replaced by steel, courage, and a blazing fury. He was right. She had a fight ahead. No time for tears. Midnight. Wang Yong reached the spot from the text. He crouched behind a heap of straw and peered out. He and Li Qian used to run a company together. They'd built something respectable in Haicheng, clawing their way up the ladder. Then Fu Hanbai bought them out maliciously. They went bankrupt overnight. Li Qian turned to gambling, and by the time Wang Yong realized it, the hole he'd dug was too deep to climb out of. They'd been friends nearly 10 years. Wang Yong wanted to help, so he brought Li Qian to Jiangyang town to lie low. He never thought they'd run into Fu Hanbai here. Fu Hanbai looked different now, but the two of them would recognize that face even in ashes. They started hanging around the shops near the flower store. Before long, they stumbled onto a massive secret. Fu Hanbai had 5-year-old twins. When Li Qian found out, he practically wept with joy. Heaven had finally thrown him a lifeline. The debt collectors were driving him insane. He decided to snatch one of Fu Hanbai's kids and demand a fortune, but the children were never alone. The funeral changed everything. Li Qian dragged Wang Yong to the venue and waited. They caught Yi Rong by himself, just one kid, But it was enough. Wang Yong exhaled. He didn't understand how things had spiraled to this. If only he'd spotted the gambling sooner. Too late now. He was already in the same boat. He checked his watch. Past midnight. Why hadn't the money shown up? Something felt off. He stepped out cautiously to get a better look. The grass crunched beneath his feet, sharp against his calves. He swallowed hard and forced himself forward. Then blinding lights hit him square in the face. He couldn't open his eyes. What the glare swallowed his features whole. Freeze, hands up. He squinted through the light and saw fully armed police aiming their weapons at him. His legs gave out. He crumpled to the ground, hands shaking as he raised them. Only one thought ran through his mind. It's over. Nearby, Li Qian stood guard outside the room where he'd locked Yi Rong, waiting for word from Wang Yong. 10 past midnight, still nothing. The phone screen was dark as a grave. Li Qian knew Wang Yong had been taken. He shook with rage, his eyes bloodshot like a cornered animal. That bastard Fu Hanbai wouldn't play fair. This location was burned. He had to move. He kicked the door open, grabbed Yi Rong's curled up body, and hauled him out. Yi Rong didn't fully understand what was happening, but seeing the kidnapper's fury, he guessed rescuers were closing in. He stayed limp and cooperative in the scramble. The smartwatch tucked in Yi Rong's sock tumbled onto the floor. Yi Rong spotted it and his heart plummeted. He immediately covered his head. Li Qian saw the watch and everything clicked. He let out a bitter, furious laugh. Fu Hanbai's good son. Just as clever as his father, but right now, that cleverness was going to cost the boy his life. He drove his foot hard into the child's small body. You little brat. You're the snitch, aren't you? Li Qian kicked Yi Rong a few more times where the boy lay crumpled, finally satisfied. The pain stole Yi Rong's voice. His small hands shook as they cradled his head. He coughed miserably on the floor, and thin streaks of blood soon followed. Li Qian's chest tightened. He crouched fast to check on the KID. Yi Rong was his only ticket out of this alive. Li Qian regretted hitting him so hard. The second he squatted, a car engine rumbled from below, not loud, but to Li Qian's frayed nerves, it hit like thunder. He didn't hesitate. He ripped a knife from his pocket, jammed it against Yi Rong's throat, and dragged the boy to the second floor. A railing stood in front of him. His back pressed tight to the factory wall. Li Qian roared, Fu Hanbai, I know you're here, show yourself. The instant he shouted, figures surged from every shadow in the factory. Guns up, red laser dots peppered Li Qian's body. His hand trembled. He locked his arm harder around Yi Rong and drove the knife deeper. Bright blood trickled down the boy's skin. Don't try anything. If I go down, I'm taking someone with me. This kid's life is worth way more than mine, right? Dying together, I'm not the one losing. Li Qian laughed, manic, like he'd lost his mind from the car. Yi Tongning watched. Her heart stopped. She grabbed Fu Hanbai's sleeve and wouldn't let go. Let me go, let me take Yi Rong's place. Is just, Fu Hanbai held her hand tight, his eyes harder than she'd ever seen. Tongning, trust me. I'll bring him back. She froze for 1 second. That was all he needed. He shoved the door open and got out. Keep her in the car. Don't let her out for any reason. If anything happens to her, you answer for it. Yes, sir, the bodyguards replied. Yi Tongning tried to follow, but the man blocking her didn't budge. Mrs. Fu, you heard the CEO. Don't make this harder. The police at the scene were rigid, rifles locked on Li Qian. Fu Hanbai strode to the base of the factory and met the man's eyes on the second floor. What do you want? Li Qian's face twisted with smugness. This guy might be a tycoon in the boardroom, but right here, right now, Li Qian called the shots. He glanced at the red dot still dotting his chest. I don't like guns pointed at me. Fu Hanbai turned and lifted a hand. The police, reluctant, lowered their weapons. The swarm of lasers vanished. Li Qian grinned. 2 million in cash. Non-sequential bills. Stuff it in a car, full tank, no plates. Deliver it here. Fu Hanbai didn't move at once. Li Qian's expression snapped wild. He slashed the knife across Yi Rong's arm. Hurry up, or your son dies. Blood poured from the boy's thin arm. His hair was plastered to his head, eyes squeezed shut. The dim light swallowed his face. Yi Tongning gasped. Despair cracked her voice. Her guard grabbed her. Mrs. Fu, stay calm. You cannot go out there. How can I stay calm? That's my baby, Yi Rong. Fu Hanbai summoned a man and spoke low. The man sprinted off. Fu Hanbai made a calming gesture toward Li Qian and shouted, the car and money are being arranged as a sign of good faith. Let me see the boy. Li Qian yanked Yi Rong's hair back, bearing his face. Mud, coal dust, and blood smeared the once handsome features. The boy forced his swollen eyes open, but his vision was a blur. Fu Hanbai confirmed the child was alive. He nodded to a subordinate, who handed him a bundle of cash. Fu Hanbai took the money and started up the stairs. Slowed. Li Qian tensed, twisting to track him. What are you doing? Stay back. Fu Hanbai raised the cash with one hand, the other lifted in surrender. You wanted money. I'm bringing it. The car's still being prepped. I'll leave it on the second floor and go. I promise. His pace never slowed. Li Qian swallowed hard. He couldn't resist the money. Drop it and leave now. Fu Hanbai reached the second floor. Less than 10 yards separated them. Yi Rong's face was waxen. His whole body shivered. Blood still dripped from the wound on his arm. The boy was at his limit. Fu Hanbai crouched and set the money on the floor. In the next heartbeat, the stacks of cash exploded upward. Thousands of bills rained down through the crumbling factory. Li Qian gaped, paralyzed for a split second. Fu Hanbai seized it. Every muscle coiled. He lunged like a panther. Li Qian dropped Yi Rong and swung the knife at Fu Hanbai. They slammed together in a brutal struggle. Li Qian slashed like a cornered animal, each stroke aimed for Fu Hanbai's vitals. A sniper above adjusted his scope, but the two men moved too fast, tangled too tight. No clean shot. Within seconds, Fu Hanbai's shirt was soaked red. When Li Qian lunged a third time, Fu Hanbai caught the blade barehanded. The edge bit through his palm. Blood streamed. Fu Hanbai's eyes burned crimson as he stared Li Qian down. His grip held the knife. Immobile. For a moment, even Li Qian flinched. This man was crazier than he was. Fu Hanbai used the opening to drive Li Qian backward into the railing. The rusted iron groaned, buckled, and gave way. Both men plunged together. Fu Hanbai clawed his way back to consciousness, his head full of fog. Every inch of him ached, like he'd been tossed by a freight truck and left for scrap. He tested one arm, then the other, his legs. Everything moved. Nothing felt broken. He let out a breath, finally releasing the fear he hadn't let himself feel before, and if he had to do it all over again, he wouldn't hesitate. Not for a second. He looked down, wrapped up like a mummy. That bastard had really gone at him. His palm throbbed with its own deep rhythm. Hospital, obviously. The kidnapper had to be in custody by now. What about Yi Rong? How badly was she hurt? And Tongning, where the hell was she? The answer came as his gaze landed on a figure slumped at the foot of his bed. Yi Tongning. She'd folded herself carefully over the mattress edge. Like even in sleep she was terrified of jostling his wounds. Her eyes and nose were red. She'd been crying all night. From the look of it, last night had gutted her. He traced the shape of her sleeping face with his eyes. She stayed with me the whole night. Was she actually worried? Were any of those tears for me? Seeing her curled so small and raw pulled at something deep in his chest. He wanted to tell her to stretch out on the extra bed. Tongning. Tongning. His voice scraped out, hoarse. She blinked awake, disoriented. When had she even drifted off? Her eyes found him awake and went wide. She rushed closer, questions already forming. Fu Hanbai grimaced, swallowing the pain. Tongning, I'm fine. It's just, your hand is on my leg. She snatched her hand back like she'd been burned, then bolted for the door to get a doctor. He shook his head, and a helpless smile tugged at his mouth. He'd never seen her this flustered. The thought that she'd lost her cool over him sent warmth flooding through his chest. A doctor came, checked his vitals, asked about the fall. Second floor, onto grass, with a very unwilling kidnapper for a cushion. Most of his injuries were ugly slashes from the knife, looked worse than they were. The real problem was his left hand. The gash went deep, all the way to bone. Several neat stitches held it together now. The doctor said with proper care and keeping it dry, he shouldn't have major long-term effects, but anything heavy and high-impact hand sports like boxing, officially off the table. Fu Hanbai nodded, unconcerned. He'd never done any of that anyway. Yi Tongning's brow pinched. She pressed the doctor for details. What exactly did long-term mean, and what would he lose? Once the doctor left, she sat beside the bed and glared at his bandaged hand. Look what your macho hero act got you, permanent damage. He let out a quiet laugh. What, worried I'll hold it against you? I'll write you a waiver right now. Everything Fu Hanbai did was voluntary. Miss Yi Tongning bears zero responsibility. Her hand lifted as if to smack him. You're still joking. At a time like this. His smile faded when he looked at her again. There was no lightness left. Yi Rong is my child. I messed up in the past. I failed you both. This was heaven giving me a chance to make up for it. Why Yi Rong, Yi Jin, you any one of you in danger, and I'll go in without a second thought. The image of Yi Rong collapsing, her small body going limp, hit him fresh. Right, how is she? No permanent damage. She fainted from shock, plus some anemia. A doctor's monitoring her in the next room. As she spoke, Fu Hanbai kept his eyes fixed on her face. Like a man who couldn't get his fill, she turned away, avoiding his gaze. Don't think getting yourself hurt means I forgive you. His voice dropped low. I never thought that. I just figured I've lived long enough. No regrets. But Yi Rong still got everything ahead of her. If trading my life could buy hers. Yi Tongning's hand clamped over his mouth. Don't say that. If you died, I'd take Yi Jin and Yi Rong, remarry, find them a handsome, Rich stepfather. You'd get to watch from heaven while our happy family of 4 burned you paper money every Qingming festival. Her face was so fierce it made him laugh. Then his brow creased hard, a grimace cutting through the amusement. She leaned in, anxious. What? Does something hurt? I told you not to laugh. He lifted his head just enough and pressed a kiss beside her ear. My heart hurts, hearing you talk about remarrying. She smacked him on the head, even flat on his back in a hospital bed. The man had no shame. Fu Hanbai winced. That one actually hurt. Boom. A sharp crash from outside. Thundered. Yi Tongning flinched, a tremor running through her. She crossed to the window. Black clouds had swallowed the sun. The daylight turned gray and dim outside. Trees thrashed in the wind. Lightning split the sky, bleaching the world white for an instant. She remembered. A thunderstorm just like this one. That was the night she'd found an injured Fu Hanbai. Back then, she'd had no idea he would tangle into her life like this. Below, people scattered for cover. A pregnant woman. A bald man in a hospital gown. A kid missing an arm. She spotted an elderly woman in a wheelchair, slowly pushing herself toward the entrance. Before she made it, heavy raindrops started falling, fat and fast. The one-armed kid who'd already run inside came sprinting back into the downpour to help push. Yi Tongning watched for a long time, unable to look away. A deep exhaustion settled over her. Hating someone took so much more out of you than loving them, so much heavier. Did she really want to cling to that grudge forever, punishing Fu Hanbai, punishing herself, measuring out every ounce of pain he'd caused and paying it back exactly? An eye for an eye, the cycle of hurt spinning between them forever. That wasn't the life she wanted. Grandma Fang's death had shaken something loose. While there was still time, while she still had the chance to love, she needed to hold the people in front of her close. Not wait until they were gone and then regret everything. This hospital had witnessed too many goodbyes. One operating room door was all it took, lives severed forever. So many people had already lost their chance. She was lucky enough to still have hers. What excuse did she have to hide from it, stay frozen because she was afraid of getting hurt? That wasn't who Yi Tongning was. The spark in her hadn't gone out. She admitted it, finally. She still had feelings for Fu Hanbai. She was willing to wipe the slate clean, give him one more chance. If he felt the same, they could spend the rest of their lives loving each other. If he hurt her again, he'd burn through his last shot, and she'd kick him out without a backward glance. Fu Hanbai. What is it, Tongning? Yi Jin is terrified of thunderstorms. Every time she hears thunder, she runs to my bed with her favorite little bear. He nodded slowly. He could imagine it. A tiny girl clutching a teddy bear, crying for her mother. Yi Tongning turned to face him head-on. But Yi Jin doesn't know I'm scared of thunderstorms too. I'm terrified, but I pretend I'm not, and I hold her tight. So, Fu Hanbai, next time it storms, will you be there, beside us? It took a long moment for the words to land. When they did, a tremor went through him from head to toe. He even tried to push himself up. Pain be damned. Tongning, she rushed to press him back down. A smile broke across her face. You'd better take good care of yourself. I don't like men with scars. He froze, eyes locked on her. Tongning, pinch me. I'm not dreaming, right? She tucked the blanket back around him and gave his ear a sharp tug. That hurt, not a dream. She leaned close and whispered against his ear. I'm giving you your last chance. You're officially on probation. I'm keeping score. You upset me or the kids once. Just once. Pack your bags and go home. Her breath was warm on his skin, his ear went red, then his neck. Fu Hanbai shifted, acutely uncomfortable. Of all the moments, why did his body have to react now? Don't get hard. Do not get hard. He bit down on his lip. But he'd gone too long without her, his body was entirely too sensitive. Her gaze followed his, and she straightened instantly, shooting him a knife-sharp look. You're thinking about that at a time like this. -1 point. Fu Hanbai protested that he couldn't control that. Laughter and teasing scuffles filled the room outside. The storm had arrived sudden and fierce. Rain came down in sheets, heavy drops pelting the pavement like beads, clear and cool, splashing up, soaking the dust. A summer thunderstorm. It rushed in fast and left just as quickly. Soon the rain stopped. The sky turned bright again, washed clean. Flowers and trees gave off that sharp, fresh scent. The sun reappeared, laying warm light over the wet earth, and inside the hospital room, it fell across two people curled close together. The servants at the Fu family estate had gotten word. Today, the CEO was bringing home the woman everyone had been whispering about. Since early morning, the household staff had been in a frenzy, prepping food, trimming the gardens. The old master had even ordered all the sharp or dangerous decorative objects removed from the rooms. With the old man taking it that seriously, no one dared to slack off. Every single one of them was on high alert. Not long ago, the young CEO called to say they were almost there, so the staff lined up at the gate well ahead of time. While they waited, they traded gossip in low voices. Yi Tongning had never set foot inside the Fu residence, but the household staff loved to talk about her over meals. They all wondered what kind of woman this Miss Yi must be to have tamed their notoriously cold-hearted young CEO so completely. Before long, a familiar Rolls-Royce pulled up to the Fu estate's front gate. The staff hurried forward, holding umbrellas, and opened the door. A pair of long legs swung out first. Fu Hanbai stepped out of the car, dressed formally today in a three-piece suit: shirt, vest, blazer. The custom-tailored fit made him look tall and impossibly elegant. The man who usually wore a stern expression had a faint smile on his face now. He gazed tenderly at the person still inside the car. Fu Hanbai bent slightly and offered his arm. A slender, fair hand reached out from the car and rested on it. The servants' attention sharpened. They knew this was the legendary Miss Yi. Every single one of them stole a glance. Yi Tongning wore light makeup today, a white blazer over a matching white dress. Her hair was pulled back and pinned with pearls. She looked impossibly elegant. Looking like that, no wonder their CEO had fallen so hard. The servants wanted to sneak a few more looks, but they caught the warning in Fu Hanbai's eyes and immediately dropped their gazes. Are we there yet? A cute, childish voice sounded from inside the car. The servants perked up again. With parents who looked that perfect, it wasn't hard to guess the kids would grow up gorgeous. Yi Jin stretched out her little hand and rubbed her big, watery eyes. She had clearly just woken up. Today she wore a dusty pink princess dress with little white leather shoes. Her hair was in two pigtails, topped with a tiny crown clip. She looked like a living, breathing fairytale princess. The car was too comfortable. There were plush little toys everywhere, and Daddy's arms felt safe, so Yi-jin had basically slept the whole way. Yi-rong, on the other hand, wore a collared shirt with matching navy suspender pants. He set down the book he'd been reading during the drive, grabbed a wet wipe from the side, and gently cleaned his sister's mouth. "You drooled on me." Yi-jin pouted, a little embarrassed. "No, I didn't." Yi Tongning reached into the car. Yi-rong. Yi-jin, time to get out. Yi-jin obediently took her mother's hand, mumbling under her breath, "I wonder if Grandpa is scary." Yi Tongning smoothed the bangs across Yi-jin's forehead and straightened one of her slightly crooked braids. "Remember everything I told you?" Yi-jin nodded. "I remember. Say hello to Grandpa and Auntie first. Don't run around. And don't touch things without asking." Even though Fu Hanbai had repeated about a dozen times now that the old chairman just wanted to see the kids and wouldn't do anything else, Yi Tongning still felt uneasy. It wasn't that she was selling herself short. She knew exactly what kind of family the Fus were. The expectations for a daughter-in-law would be sky-high. She and Fu Hanbai had been tangled up for so long before. Even though they both knew the truth now about what happened, nobody knew what the old man was really thinking. Would he take his anger out on the kids? Just then, Yi-rong climbed out of the car and took his sister's hand. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll keep an eye on Yi-jin." Seeing how tense Yi Tongning and the children looked, Fu Hanbai shook his head, partly amused, partly pained. Were they acting like they were heading to their own execution? The old man wasn't going to do anything to them. A shadow passed through Fu Hanbai's eyes. He still hadn't done enough. He still hadn't given his partner and kids enough security. The past couldn't be changed, but he would do everything from now on to make it right. He crouched down and scooped up Yi-jin. "Don't be scared, you don't have to worry about any of that. This is Daddy's home. You do whatever you want. Daddy's right here." Then he looked at Yi-rong. "You too, Rong-rong." Yi-rong nodded but secretly rolled his eyes. "Rong-rong, Mom might have forgiven you, but I haven't yet. I'm watching you." Yi Tongning took Yi-rong's hand. Fu Hanbai held Yi-jin. The four of them walked through the entrance of the Fu family's old mansion. Meanwhile, in the Fu family living room, Old Master Fu sat on the sofa in a black tang suit embroidered with bamboo patterns. His hair was combed neatly back. He looked sharp, but he couldn't stop fidgeting. First he stroked his beard, then he tapped his dragon-head cane. Then he stared at the front door. He couldn't sit still. Didn't they say they'd be here any minute? Why isn't anyone here yet? Steward, go check. Yes, sir. The steward, who had been waiting nearby, immediately moved to obey, but Fu Bingqing blocked him. "Dad, stop harassing the steward. They said they'd be here any minute. You haven't seen them in 5 years. You can wait a few more minutes." The old man huffed at being talked back to by his own daughter. He tapped his cane and was about to glare at her. Just then, sounds came from the doorway. "Dad, I've brought Tongning and the kids." The old man's eyes lit up at the sight of the family of 4 standing before him. A crisp, childish voice rang out. Yi-jin smiled as she greeted Fu Bingqing and Old Master Fu. "Hello, Auntie." "Hello, Grandpa." The old man in front of her had a fierce look and kept staring. Yi-jin felt suddenly shy. After saying hello, she hid behind her mother. Yi-rong greeted the 2 elders as well, calm and steady. Fu Bingqing broke into a doting grin. Oh my, whose little prince and princess are these? So handsome, so pretty, and they've wandered all the way over here. Hearing her aunt's teasing, Yi Jin got even more embarrassed. Come here, Auntie has presents for you. At that, Yi Rong and Yi Jin both looked at their mother. Only when Yi Tongning nodded did they step forward. Fu Bingqing fastened a gold koi lock pendant around each of their necks. Auntie wishes you both happiness every single day and a life full of wealth and honor. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Auntie. While Fu Bingqing handed out the gifts, the old man studied the two children. This little girl was like a jade doll, delicate, adorable. She looked more like her mother. She'd definitely grow up to be a beauty. The boy looked exactly like Hanbai, right down to that same cold expression. For a split second, it was like seeing Hanbai as a child again. Both children were well behaved and polite. Their mother had clearly raised them well. Old Master Fu grew fonder of the two kids the longer he looked at them, and along with that, his resentment toward Yi Tongning softened. After what Fu Hanbai had pulled back then, he had been a complete wreck and thrown the whole household into chaos. The old man didn't want to cause more trouble. If the family of four could be happy and at peace, he could stop playing the villain. When are your birthdays? What do you like to do at home? Seeing Fu Bingqing chatting so animatedly with the kids, old Master Fu felt a little left out. He cleared his throat deliberately and called for the steward. It's been a long trip. The children must be tired. Check on the kitchen and see how the food is coming, and bring up some snacks and fruit. The steward obeyed, and soon several servants brought out plates of cut fruit and 2 small cups of ice cream. When Yi Tongning hesitated, the steward kindly explained, everything is made from scratch here in the kitchen, just a little is fine. Thank you, Uncle. Thank you, Grandpa. Yi Rong and Yi Jin took their ice cream and started eating. Satisfied that he'd regained their attention, the old man had the steward bring out something he'd prepared long ago. For Yi Rong and Yi Jin, there were trust funds. When they came of age, they'd receive annual dividends, enough to support them for life. Even if anything ever happened between Yi Tongning and Fu Hanbai, the funds would remain. It was a lifelong guarantee for the children. For Yi Tongning, there was a jadeite bracelet that had belonged to Fu Hanbai's late mother. It was the old man's way of acknowledging her as the Fu family's daughter-in-law. Looking at the bracelet, Yi Tongning hesitated. She glanced at Fu Hanbai. The man gave her a gentle smile and a nod. He picked up the bracelet and slipped it onto her wrist himself. Then he pressed a soft kiss to her hand. Yi Tongning flushed and tapped his arm. Everyone's watching. Fu Bingqing was busy feeding fruit to the kids. She turned her head away, pretending not to see, but she was laughing inside. That little brat, acting all high and mighty before. Look at him now. The sight of the young couple being so sweet made the old man laugh in spite of himself. Just don't make a mess of things again. I'm too old to deal with it, and I can't afford the humiliation. Fu Hanbai tightened his grip on Yi Tongning's hand. Don't worry, Dad. I already used my one chance to screw things up in this lifetime. I am never letting go again. The old man shifted his gaze to the children and changed the subject. Those two are still in that little kindergarten out in the town. Get them into a good school, someplace bilingual. Or just send them here. I'll find them the best private tutors. Yijin's mouth was still full of cantaloupe, her cheeks puffed out. The moment she heard she might not be able to go to kindergarten anymore, her lips trembled and her eyes filled with tears. I want to go to kindergarten with Yi Rong. Sure, there were kids there she didn't like, but there were also so many people she loved and teachers and friends who were really nice to her. She wanted to go to kindergarten with Yi Rong. Well, Yi Tongning had thought about whether to move back, but she and her kids had been living in Jiangyang town for 6 years now. Changing their environment so suddenly, she worried the children wouldn't handle it well. And even if they did move back, it would be her choice, not something forced on her. She had forgiven Fu Hanbai, yes, but there was still a huge gap between them. They couldn't just pick up right where they left off overnight. She wanted to take things slow. Fu Hanbai understood exactly what she meant. He had no intention of using his father's authority to pressure her into coming back. He was about to speak, his expression darkening, but old Master Fu changed his mind first, a little embarrassed. Never mind, steward, tell the kitchen to serve the food. Seeing the little girl on the verge of tears, the old man really couldn't push it, but then he thought of something else, and the children's surname. Now that the two of them had reconciled, shouldn't the kids take the Fu name, Dad? Even Fu Bingqing couldn't hold back anymore. She shot him a hard warning look. This old man was so stuck in the past. Who cared about surnames these days? Fu Bingqing's eyes screamed at him. Your son barely got his wife back. She hasn't even warmed the bed yet. You want to drive her away again with your nonsense? The old man felt a little guilty. His voice trailed off as he glanced hopefully at the two children. At least change one of them. Fu Hanbai didn't leave any room for hope. Neither child is changing their name. They like their names just fine. The old man made one more try. You're still young. Are you two planning to have another one? Catching his meaning, Yi Tongning blushed. Fu Hanbai kept his composure. No plans for now. We'll see what Tongning wants. That was his way of telling the old man not to get his hopes up. Defeated, the old man dropped the subject. Just then, the steward came to announce that lunch was ready. The conversation ended there. Once Yijin got comfortable, she was like a happy little puppy. She served food to everyone, first this person, then that one. She had the old man laughing and smiling. The meal was full of warmth. After lunch, the old man told them to bring the children back to visit often. The family of 4 got back into the car to head home. Yi Jin and Yi Rong were both sleepy after the meal. They fell asleep soon after climbing end. Yi Tongning looked at their peaceful little faces and felt a surge of warmth. She pressed a kiss to each of their foreheads. Thank goodness she had kept these two children back then. When she looked up, Fu Hanbai was leaning toward her, cheek turned, clearly asking for a kiss too. Yi Tongning gave him a light tap. No shame. But Fu Hanbai didn't give up. He stayed in that position, as if he wouldn't move until he got his reward. Left with no choice, Yi Tongning leaned in to kiss his cheek, but he suddenly turned his head, and her lips landed right on his. Startled, she tried to pull back, but a large hand pressed against the back of her head, giving her nowhere to retreat. His tongue slipped past her lips, deepening the kiss. Yi Tongning stopped resisting. She let her body relax and sank into it. The kiss was gentle and possessive all at once. I've found the courage to trust you again with my whole heart, but this time don't let me down. The wedding was tentatively set for October. Not because Fu Hanbai didn't want it sooner, there was just too much to prepare. Yi Tongning had wanted to keep it simple. But Fu Hanbai insisted on giving her a grand ceremony. In the end, she couldn't talk him out of it and agreed. With only two conditions. No huge guest list and no media. Fu Hanbai handled every detail himself. Invitations, menu, flowers, venue, efficient, he did it all. He hired a foreign designer to custom make Yi Tongning's wedding dress, entirely by hand, a process that took 2 full months. When Yi Tongning asked about the cost, she found out the designer's fee alone was eye-watering. After that, she stopped asking. Let him spend recklessly, she figured. They weren't officially married yet, so it wasn't her money he was burning through. Fu Hanbai's assistant, Ling Qian, secretly complained to Yi Tongning on the side. She said the boss had been walking into work with a smile every morning lately, scaring everyone half to death. They thought he'd been possessed by some demon. And the workaholic who used to stay late every night, practically living at the office, now left right on the day every day, more punctual than a clock. Hearing Ling Qian's gossip, Yi Tongning didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But then she thought about how Fu Hanbai drove several hours every day just to see her, craving a few moments of closeness, and her heart swelled with tenderness and a pang of sympathy. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Yi Tongning glanced at the time, surprised. It was only a little after 4 in the afternoon. Who could be visiting at this hour? She padded to the peephole and peered out. Standing at the door in a suit, holding a huge bouquet of pink roses, was none other than Fu Hanbai. Yi Tongning laughed as she opened the door, and instantly found herself wrapped in his arms. The man pressed against her carried the heat of the outdoors, his shirt collar damp with sweat. A stray lock of hair fell across his forehead. He looked a little rumpled, but it didn't diminish his handsome features one bit. You're so sweaty. Doesn't your car have AC? Yi Tongning looped her arms around his waist voluntarily. Feeling her response, he tightened his hold with barely concealed eagerness. I went to the flower shop to pick these out for you myself. And, I wanted to see you faster, so I ran up the stairs. Fu Hanbai reluctantly loosened his grip and handed her the flowers. His eyes practically sparkled as he spoke. Yi Tongning took the bouquet and buried her nose in it. Every rose petal was plump and full, giving off a delicate fragrance. Thanks. I love them. Since he had to return to work, Fu Hanbai couldn't manage the flower shop he'd opened, so he hired a manager. The shop stocked expensive blooms, probably not a bestseller in this out-of-the-way town, but it made it easy for him to send Yi Tongning flowers every day. Yi Tongning found a vase in the cabinet and arranged the roses, then glanced at the calla lilies from yesterday still sitting on the dining table. She looked resigned. If you keep sending flowers every day, this place is going to turn into a florist shop, and I don't have enough vases for all of them. As she misted the roses with a spray bottle, footsteps sounded behind her. Fu Hanbai had already slipped into his house slippers and came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her slender waist. He pressed light kisses to the back of her neck. Tickles. Yi Tongning squirmed a little, but when he didn't budge, she gave up struggling. Why are you off work so early today? Nothing much going on, so I left early, his deep voice murmured in her ear. Oh, so the CEO just skips out early, huh? Yi Tongning laughed. What's the point of being CEO if I don't get a few perks? Fu Hanbai nuzzled his face against her neck, clinging to her like a needy child, nothing like the commanding CEO he was supposed to be. Yi Tongning suddenly felt like she was back in the early days when she first met Fu Hanbai. Back then, he used to do this too, resting his head on her shoulder, acting needy. A pang hit her chest, sour and tight. She cleared her throat, trying not to let him notice her sudden shift in mood. How long does it take you to drive here? About 2 hours. Why? 2 hours is enough time for you to make how much money? Don't you think it's a waste spending that time on the road? Fu Hanbai chuckled, the low sound vibrating in her ear, making her knees weak. What, feeling bad for your husband's wallet now? You didn't want my salary card when I offered it. Yi Tongning grabbed his hand, which had somehow slipped under her shirt, and started roaming, her cheeks flushed. What are you doing? I'm trying to have a serious conversation. Fu Hanbai straightened up. A CEO's job is mostly about making decisions and managing people. It's not that busy. I used to pile extra work on myself. And besides, how could work ever be more important than seeing you? We already lost 6 years. I don't want to waste a single second we have together now. Yi Tongning looked down. Those 6 years had left deep marks not only on her heart but also on this proud man, who had become so anxious and insecure. The reason they were stuck in this holding pattern was, at the bottom of it, her fear, her avoidance, fear of repeating the same mistakes. Fear that once Fu Hanbai got what he wanted, he would soon get bored. She was quiet for a long moment. Fu Hanbai immediately sensed her mood shift. Panic crept into his voice. What's wrong? Why are you unhappy today? Did something happen? Tell me. Yi Tongning suddenly turned around and buried her face in his chest. It's your fault. Fu Hanbai felt wronged, but he quickly ran through everything that had just happened. What did I do? Tell me, I'll fix it right away. Yi Tongning blurted out, over on your side. Have you found a preschool for Yi Rong and Yi Jin yet? The question came so out of left field that even the clever CEO needed a moment to process. Then a wave of wild joy surged through him, and his voice trembled. I've had one ready for ages, just waiting for the kids to come over. He quickly added, the house is ready too, decorated in a style I thought you'd like, and if you want to keep running your shop, I've got several storefronts in the city center all prepped, with staff on standby. The moment you say yes, I'll have them set everything up. He held his breath, waiting for her response. Then you'll have to persuade Yi Rong and Yi Jin yourself. I'm not getting involved. Okay. I'll handle it. Fu Hanbai wrapped his arms around her even tighter, as if he wanted to fuse her into his very being. They stood there, holding each other in the quiet, savoring the rare, peaceful moment. After a long while, Fu Hanbai spoke again. The kids should be getting out of preschool soon. I'll go pick them up today. Yi Jin's been complaining that all the other kids have their dad picking them up. Yi Tongning glanced at the clock. Maybe not today. Why not? It's almost 5 o'clock now. Fu Hanbai genuinely didn't understand. Why Yi Tongning grabbed his hand. The Civil Affairs Bureau closes at 5:30. As for the preschool, we can call and ask the teacher to watch them a little longer. Fu Hanbai froze for a solid moment before the meaning sank in. His voice came out hoarse. You're really sure? His eyes locked onto hers, a fire kindling in his dark pupils. No regrets. Yi Tongning didn't say another word. She pulled him toward the door. If you keep dawdling, the bureau will really close. Even though they rushed, they didn't make it in time. Standing outside the closed doors of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Fu Hanbai clutched his head in frustration for a long time, refusing to leave no matter how much Yi Tongning tugged at him. She was terrified of seeing a headline the next day, Love Trouble? Fu Corporation CEO breaks down sobbing at marriage bureau. Torn between laughing and crying, she hugged him and repeatedly promised she wouldn't change her mind, that they could just do it tomorrow. Eventually, she managed to calm him down. That night, Fu Hanbai refused to leave Yi Tongning's place. The next morning, he got up early and lined up so they'd be the first couple to get their marriage certificate that day. Even though he wanted to skip work outright, Yi Tongning talked him into going back to the office. How are you going to support the three of us if you don't work? Once at the company, Fu Hanbai couldn't focus at all. His mind kept wandering. I'm married. The urge to show off was just too overwhelming. He pulled out his phone, snapped a photo of the red cover, and posted it on his Moments with the caption, claimed. Fu Hanbai's private WeChat Moments had been blank for years. He never posted anything, but when he finally did, he dropped a bomb. The effect was immediate. His phone started buzzing non-stop. He tossed aside the documents on his desk, turned the notification sound on for the first time in forever, and checked every single message as it came in. He even went through and liked every single comment on his post. Like a giddy schoolboy, Ling Qian, who had come in to deliver files, stood in the doorway, her mouth twitching in amusement. She secretly snapped a picture. Fu Hanbai didn't even notice. Once out of the CEO's office, she sent the photo to Yi Tongning with a message, Look at this. Look at this. That grin is harder to hold back than an AK. He's been staring at his phone like an idiot all morning. Only 2 documents since this morning, and he still hasn't signed them. A reply came quickly. Yi Tongning. He's the CEO. Cut him some slack. Ling Qian was about to respond when a new directive came in from Fu Hanbai. Notify the entire company, day off tomorrow. Paid. The man added another message immediately. Make sure to explain the reason. Pick up your wedding candy before you leave. Ling Qian let out a shriek of joy and sprinted toward the employee break room, nearly dropping her phone. Guys, we got the day off. What? A day off? Ling Qian, say that again. At that moment, nobody cared about the boss's antics anymore. He gave them a paid holiday. Of course, they'd forgive him. At 5 in the afternoon, the sun was still beating down hard, no sign of letting up. Outside Flower Kindergarten, parents streamed in and out, collecting their kids for the day. Yi Rong held Yi Jin's hand. They stood quietly beside their teacher, scanning the crowd for Yi Tongning. Then a stretched Rolls-Royce pulled up to the curb. Heads turned. A few parents pulled out their phones and started snapping pictures. A car like that rolled through this small town maybe once a year. Nobody was letting it go without a post. A pair of long legs swung out, the door closing automatically behind him. Fu Hanbai had come straight from the office, still in his suit. His dark hair was swept back, the cut sharp against his features. The trousers skimmed long, straight lines tall, broad-shouldered, composed. Standing among the cluster of parents, he looked like he'd walked out of a different world. A few of the mothers actually gasped. Beside Yi Jin, Yaya cupped her cheeks with both hands. Wow, that uncle is really, really handsome. She tugged at Yi Jin's sleeve. Yi Jin, look. Yi Jin tracked Fu Hanbai's approach and her chin lifted with pure pride. She raised her voice on purpose. I told you my dad is super handsome, more handsome than the stars on TV. Yaya's eyes went wide. That's your dad? Yi Rong said nothing before anyone could react. Yi Jin shot forward like a little cannonball, flinging herself into Fu Hanbai's arms. Daddy, why did you come pick me up today? Fu Hanbai caught her easily and lifted her onto his hip. Mommy went to the hospital to see Grandma, so I came instead. You're not happy about it? Yi Jin shook her head hard, arms locking tight around his neck. No, I'm super happy. Fu Hanbai lifted his chin toward Yi Rong. Let's go. Yi Rong walked over at her own pace. Her small face was a miniature copy of his, and her expression said everything. Yi Jin waved toward Yaya. Yaya, my dad's here, I'm going now. Yaya waved back, thinking Yi Jin's dad looked exactly like the prince in her fairy tale book. Nearby, Erfeng ducked behind the teacher. After what happened before, the kindergarten teacher had given her a serious talking to. She'd already apologized to Yi Jin and Yi Rong. But seeing Yi Jin's dad again still made her face heat up. Fu Hanbai exchanged a quick greeting with the teacher, then led both kids away, leaving a trail of envious little faces in his wake. Inside the car, Yi Jin's eyes went huge. At the sight of the boxes stacked on the back seat, Daddy, are these presents for us? Fu Hanbai leaned in to fasten their seat belts, careful and precise. Yeah. Didn't you say last time you wanted the whole Barbie set? And the Lego for Yi Rong. Yi Rong turned her head toward the window and muttered, Who said I wanted you to buy it? But her gaze kept sliding sideways toward the boxes. A couple of them looked like limited editions. Yi Jin ripped into a big box without waiting, pulling out dolls and losing herself in the game immediately. Fu Hanbai looked at sweet, guileless Yi Jin, then at cool, guarded Yi Rong, and his expression softened. Yi Rong. Yi Jin, Daddy has something to tell you both. We might be moving, going to live in a new place with Mommy and Daddy. That means a new kindergarten, too. Yi Jin stopped what she was doing and looked up. Yi Rong didn't seem surprised at all, like she'd been expecting this. Why, Daddy? Yi Jin pouted. She didn't want to leave Yaya, or her teacher, or the other kids because we'll live in a big house. There'll be all the dolls and snacks you like. And at the new kindergarten, you'll make lots of new friends. Plus, I'll get to spend more time with you and your brother. Bedtime stories every night. How does that sound? Yi Jin propped her chin on her little hand, frowned in serious thought, and agonized for all of 2 minutes. Maybe the new kindergarten would be better. Okay, but don't forget to bring Dan by. The cat will be lonely here all by himself. Fu Hanbai exhaled quietly. Yi Jin was on board. He shifted his gaze to Yi Rong. Yi Rong's voice stayed cool. As long as Mom and Yi-jin are okay with it, I have no objection. She still had Uncle Shen's contact saved. If this man ever treated Mom badly, she'd be the first one to act. Fu Hanbai had no idea what was running through Yi-rong's head, but he just felt he was one step closer to the life he'd imagined. He patted both children's heads gently and let out a breath deep in his chest. Later, Fu Hanbai would sponsor the farewell party at Flower Kindergarten, while Yi-jin and Yaya would sob and cling to each other like their hearts might break. The Australian lobster he paid for, and the pop star flown in to perform, would be the talk of Jiangyang town for a long time, but that was a story for later, late October. The sky stretched wide and clear. A crisp blue-white clouds drifted high. A light breeze carried the first real coolness of autumn. It had been barely 2 weeks since the grand wedding, and the media frenzy still hadn't died down. Security inside the venue had been airtight. Not a single outlet got a photo from inside. Naturally, no one got a shot of the bride, and even if they had, no media outlet would have dared publish it. All anyone could do was stitch together fragments whispered by guests, trying to piece together a glimpse of the wedding of the century. Right now, the woman at the center of all that noise was busy putting her kids to sleep. When she saw the beautiful swan, Yi Tongning let her voice drop low as she read steady, even breathing rose from beside her. She glanced down at why Yi-jin and Yi-rong were already asleep. She looked at their soft, round cheeks and a swell of emotion moved through her chest. She pressed a gentle kiss to each small forehead. She slipped out of bed silently and pulled the door shut with a quiet click. Just then, the front door opened with a sound she knew by heart. Fu Hanbai was home. She went to the kitchen, poured a glass of warm water, and handed it to him. Then she pointed toward the bedroom. Kids asleep. Fu Hanbai nodded, took the glass, and drained it in one go. He set it down carefully on the counter. Then, like he couldn't wait another second, he wrapped his arms around her from behind. His voice carried the weight of the day. Something came up at the company. Thank you for handling the kids. 6-hour meeting. Just let me hold you for a minute. I need to recharge. The old chairwoman had fully retired now and stopped interfering in company affairs. Fu Hanbai was still young. The whole corporation rested on his shoulders, and the weight was heavied while Yi Tongning stroked the large hand wrapped around her, her voice soft. I'm not tired. But you've had a long day. Go shower and get some rest. Instead, Fu Hanbai chose that exact moment to reach out and start tickling her. While Yi Tongning laughed, squirming away. That tickles. Then she felt the change in his breathing. Fu Hanbai leaned in close to her ear, his breath warm. I'm hungry. Yi Tongning's face heated. She stomped lightly on his foot, pretending not to understand. What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. You. She laughed out loud. That line is so cheesy. Fu Hanbai's voice stayed low. I've been reading a ton of possessive CEO novels. Research. On how to chase my wife. Yi Tongning pushed at him. Well, you're a certified CEO now, aren't you? Stop fooling around. It's late. Fu Hanbai didn't let go. A thread of grievance slipped into his voice. The kids are home. We tell them stories every night. It's been a long time. At that, memories flooded back. A rosy blush crept across Yi Tongning's face. She didn't push him away again. Just go shower first. We'll talk after. Fu Hanbai's eyebrow arched without another word. He scooped her up into his arms. "You're showering with me." He didn't give her a chance to refuse. He strode toward the bathroom, the exhaustion wiped clean from his face. Her slippers dropped to the floor. Yi Tongning wrapped her arms around his neck, helpless, and silently gave in. The bathroom door clicked shut. Soon, the sound of water started, and it was a long time before it stopped. That night, the room lay dark, lit only by moonlight spilling through the window, casting a hazy, dreamlike veil over the figures on the bed. Fu Hanbai suddenly stopped. Yi Tongning's voice came out a little hoarse. "What's wrong?" "I think it broke." Fu Hanbai frowned, pulled back, and pressed a reassuring kiss to her lips. "Let me get a new one." But Yi Tongning stopped him. "Don't." Fu Hanbai went still, his gaze locked onto her, tension and nerves and something like hope flickering across his face. "Don't?" Was this what he thought it was? Yi Tongning felt the embarrassment hit all at once and turned her head away. "Let's just let it happen." She'd actually been thinking about it for a while, she just hadn't worked up the nerve to bring it up with him. She really did love kids. The man didn't say another word. He tossed the thing aside. The curtains lifted on the breeze. The moonlight was bright. The night was still young. Neither of them could have guessed that this one time, letting it happen, would hit the jackpot. A new little life took root and began to grow, joining this family that had been through so many twists and turns but was finally moving forward. When Fu Hanbai found out, he was relieved that this time he'd be at Yi Tongning's side through the whole pregnancy. A chance to make up for old regrets. But he also realized pretty fast that he was looking at 3 months of celibacy, minimum. A blissful kind of torture. Autumn turned to winter, and winter eased into spring. The family of 4, soon to be 5, kept on living there happily ever after.